Joint meeting of the Enfield Town Council and the Enfield Board of Education. Tonight is Monday, June 18th, 2018. Roll call, please.
Councilor Arnone.
Here.
Councilor Bosco. Sorry. Councilor Sakala. Councilor Casati.
Here.
Councilor Davis.
Here.
Councilor Denny.
Here.
Councilor Fall.
Here.
Mayor Ludwig.
Here.
Councilor Muller.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Suzak.
Here.
Councilor Ungary.
Here.
There's 9 members present, 2 are absent.
Very slow.
So,
Could you do a roll call of the Board of Ed,
yeah,
please?
go ahead.
Ashley DePaul. Sarah Hernandez. Walter Cassell.
Here.
Tina LeBlanc. Timothy Neville.
Here.
Richard Rainier. Charlotte Riley.
Here.
Chris Rutledge.
Here.
Scott Ryder.
Here. So we have a quorum of both boards. Item number 2, budget. We will turn it over to our colleagues on the Board of Education.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On behalf of the Board of Education, I would again like to extend our appreciation for the approval of our 2018-2019 budget. And I will pass it off now to Mr. Drezek, who has a little presentation, and then we'll have another presentation after that.
Can you hear me? I'll stand. How about that? Not much of a presentation, and I'll try not to. I was trying to avoid that, Donna.
Yeah, I know. Like I was trying to avoid it.
My tie looks good on TV.
There you go.
No,
you're good. Come forward.
Nice presentation. Thank you. Next.
This wasn't much of a presentation, more of a conversation that the board wanted to have with members of council. So first of all, I want to reiterate what Mr. Krzel had said about not just the appreciation the board has for next fiscal year's budget allocation, but again, to remind you and everyone watching at home, the appreciation the board has for the steps and the actions that the council took during this fiscal year, kind of bailing us out of the large shortfall that we found ourselves in from the state of Connecticut. But as you know, and you're aware, this is a pretty unique circumstance, especially for me being in my first year, where we actually received, and as an allocation from you guys, more than we asked for. And if you recall back in the wintertime when we first presented to you, we presented a 1.85% budget increase with the promise that, understanding the fiscal times that we're in, and knowing that you just essentially, for lack of a better term, bailed us out for this current year, that we would try to bring the number down as low as we could, because we none of us, I think, expected the I guess windfall is the best way to put it, of cash that came in from Hartford unexpectedly this year. That said, the board then approached me after you appropriated our budget and said, okay, we have essentially an extra $400,000. What are we going to do with it? And I didn't have a good answer because I wasn't, quite honestly, preparing for that. We were actually trying to get that number down lower from 1.85%. But the board essentially had 3 options. The first option was to spend it, which I wasn't advocating because I didn't have a good plan for it. The second option was to turn around and give it back to you. Logistically, I don't know how that would work out, and that would have been a conversation with town manager and I about how we would physically do that, especially if the council was expecting it back. And the third option was one that I wanted to have a further conversation with the board about was, and one of the things that we're kind of hamstrung with, as you guys know this as well, is that we operate on an annual fiscal cycle. So we don't necessarily have the ability to plan, which sometimes is not necessarily beneficial for us and or for you as a town community. So one of the things that we talked about was, before we go ahead and just figure out a way to spend an extra $400,000, the concern I had was, I can tell you how to spend it, but sustaining it over time is going to be a challenge. And I don't want to put anyone on the spot here, but I think all of us can understand that what happened at the state level this year, I don't think any of us are necessarily banking on that happening again. We can all be pleasantly surprised. There's new leadership coming in Hartford, maybe a new legislature, so we're hopeful. But if history teaches us anything, is this was kind of a one-shot deal. So we understand that we're still not out of the woods from a fiscal perspective here in town, and we don't want to ever be the burden to say, well, we have to cut services on your side or our side because we simply can't afford it. So we had a unique opportunity. And the opportunity is, as you guys are aware, that the town council can permit boards of education to carry over up to 1% of their budget on an annual basis. Now, we can't do it next year because that actually has to be part of your appropriation to us. As part of the motion, when you give us our money, has to say, and they can keep their whatever they happen to save. In our case, a 1% carryover for us is equivalent to $700,000. We've never been in a position to carry over 1% of our budget because we don't have $700,000 waiting for us at the end of the year. But we're a bit of a unique circumstance this year where, quite honestly, you gave us most of it already. So we have money in the bank that we've never had before. The question is, what's the most responsible thing to do with it? The other thing that I wanted to mention, because I wanted to be consistent with what we talked about earlier in the year, was we knew that where we started wasn't necessarily where we were going to end up financially. So we were preparing to bring that number down as best we could, and there were things that were happening and changes we were trying to make to get that number lower that was palatable, so we didn't have to lose any services on our side in the event you couldn't appropriate what we had asked for. Again, that all went out the window when we got more money than we had expected, but that didn't mean we weren't still doing our job and trying to be as fiscally sound as we could on our end. So one of the things that we were having a dialogue with the board about, and they wanted to have the conversation with you guys, is, you know, knowing now, if it's almost like gambling, for lack of a better term. Would you rather have what you know, or roll the dice that things are going to get better in Hartford next year and we're not going to be in the same predicament we thought we were for the previous, 12 months up to this budget cycle? So because we've never been in a position to actually plan beyond 1 year, we find ourselves in a unique situation now where, with your approval, we can do that. So our proposal, or the board has asked me to share this proposal with you as the council, is if instead of allocating that additional funding for 18-19, we can start planning our 19-20 budget cycle now. Now, I don't know if 1% is going to work and totally fund us for what we need for 19-20. We haven't even really gotten 18-19 in yet. But we now have a year to figure it out. So essentially what our ask of the council is, if everyone were to agree that, yes, whatever money we have saved and allocated in next year's budget, because you gave it to us and we haven't spent it yet, if we're in a position to know we can carry money forward for the following fiscal year, we can begin planning appropriately. So if we start planning it, so when we come to you guys next March, February, I don't know, we start right away. When we come to you, we don't necessarily have to ask you for, hypothetically, we need a 3% increase, but the first 1% we're going to pay for ourselves. We already know how we're going to spend it. And it's going to be our goal to come into you and say, we need a 1% budget increase, but it's not going to cost the town or the taxpayers additional funding because we already have 1% of our budget allocated as a carryover because the council approved us to function that way. We wanted to be open about it. The last thing in the world we want to do is have surprises, and the other thing I want to do is anyone to come to me next March or April and say, where the heck did you get $700,000 from? You all know now, it's fresh in your minds where it came from. That's it. That's where it came from. The additional fund, in order to, obviously create enough to carry over 1%, were from those areas that we were already anticipating making some reductions to. So that was what the board wanted to have an open conversation with members of the town council with. The town manager and I have had this discussion. We just think it's the right thing to do. It's the appropriate thing to do if you guys all agree. I don't think any of us have a crystal ball about what we're walking into a year from now. And I think we have a unique opportunity to actually plan for the worst and hope for the best, as opposed to having to react when the sky falls. Again, we're all keeping our fingers crossed. I would love to be in a position next year where you say we're going to give you more than you asked for, but we also have to be realistic that at some point the well's going to run dry. The other piece of this conversation was when I presented the board's budget to you guys back in March, one of the things I shared with you was that at the time Brian and I made the decision back in November that we were going to freeze both sides of the budget. So the board side and the town side were going to freeze spending for the year. All non-essential spending we were going to try to control as best we could. Now, on your side, you have mandatory expenses. We're not exempt from that either. But one of the things that we were hopeful for is, in the event that we didn't have enough for next year's budget cycle, that we could maybe have this conversation of what we saved to carry over. We weren't in a position to have to do that. But one thing I said to you guys back in March was, we frozen the budget. I don't know until June 30th how much money is left. But if I'll keep my word, whatever I have left, I'm not just going to randomly go out and spend it because it's sitting there. You guys bailed us out. We'll try to help you back and give you back what we have left. what I did, and what some of these guys didn't know, is I was hounding my poor business manager for the last 6 months saying, we need to save at least $100,000, because that was kind of the cutoff point of making sure we had at least $100,000 in the bank and we could still survive if we had to do something with that at the end of the year. She just confirmed with me this morning, she can still do it. There were some things, we fulfilled all the orders that we had on our desk. We got lucky with some personnel changes that we were able to realize a little bit more savings than we thought. So at the end of the year, we're going to have $100,000. And I don't hold me to the exact number. It could be 101, it could be 99.9. I don't have the exact figure until the last special education bill comes in. But Patty's never been wrong in the 14 years I know her, so I'm taking a leap of faith with her on this one. That she knows that there should be at least $100,000 allocated at the end of the year. Now again, the board has the option to spend it, but I think that would be disingenuous from what I told you guys 6 months ago that we were going to try to do. So that's where we are. I'm going to leave it to these guys now to continue the conversation. But
So
I'm going to give it back to him.
I have a mic here, so.
Okay.
So, $100,000 check. 2%.
Is it going to bounce?
Don't cash it till after the 30th. Don't cash that until July 1.
Out of our checkbook.
Very nice.
That, nothing we got, spent money to get made. I made it myself. So that's why it's on a flimsy, lousy piece of paper, not a foam board, so.
Very, very nice. So you guys have this way. Go ahead. If you anyone from the board would like to continue to speak or anything else, go ahead. You have the floor.
Mr. Neville?
I think Chris pretty much summed it all up. I think we were eternally grateful when we were facing $26 million in cuts. You guys stepped up and took care of us. We're looking at ourselves not as a Board of Ed or a town council. We're looking at us as the town of Enfield. And I think we all acted that way, and we're grateful for that. And I think we've been talking for years about planning and putting aside 1% and planning for bad times, and just so we're going to be there and have something there without having to worry our heads off. That's a plus for all of us. And I think we need to get more into that planning thing, just like we're doing with the facilities and things like that. We're trying to get our heads on straight and do that so we don't get surprises. So we just wanted to thank you. The $100,000, we kept our word, and I think that's important. And just the respect of the level of trust that we have with you and you with us, I think we have to continue that. That's the only way we can work. So from all of us, this is unanimous. Thank you very, very much. We appreciate it.
And I couldn't say it better than myself, so. And again, hopefully that $100,000 will go towards a roof.
Anyone, sorry, before we open up to the council, anyone else on the board like an opportunity to speak?
Okay.
Okay, thank you. And
Any questions from
any
the
questions?
council?
Councilor Bosco, then Councilor No.
I want to thank the board. I remember 11 years ago when we got on, there was no trust. And all you did is, where was the school going to screw us? Or where? And the school board would say, when's the council going to get us? And over the years, we were able to work and have a relationship like this, down to the point where you tell us what you need, and we're pretty sure that that's what you need. And it just makes the budget season so much easier than it was before. So I just want to thank all you guys and boards past and present. Thank you, and we finally got there.
May I just comment on that?
Sure.
The first meeting, joint meeting we had when I got on the board back in 2015 was downstairs, and Lee Ergerman was our interim town manager, and he met us outside, and he says, the 40 years as he's been a town manager, he's never been to a meeting like that before, where we worked together. So that meant a lot, coming from someone with that much experience, so.
Well, that's what it's for. We're here as a community.
Yep,
And if we work as a community, we'll have a better community.
exactly.
Instead of working against each other, we work with each other. You find better ways to do things and save some money, and it's, all for the students, and it's going to the students. And
It's all for
that's
the
what
town
makes it
also.
nice.
It's all for the town also.
Councilor No.
So I don't have a problem with putting away the $750,000. That's I think we've allowed it in the past. I can remember when I was on the Board of Ed, I believe the town council had let us put some money away before. So it's not like it hasn't been done before, and it's good fiscal sense. As for the $100,000, and I know a couple of you are on the facilities committee, so right now we're wrestling with a cleaning issue of these, radiators that are very difficult to take apart. They're outdated, old. You have to disassemble them. Takes an incredible amount of time out of staff. I'd like to see some of this money go towards, not only solving that problem, but initially paying for the problem now. I know in facilities too, we have a plan going for the roof to get a part of it going, and the funding and the grant money is going to be there. But I'd really like to kind of like a maintenance fund out of these, and we, again, facilities would like to look at replacing some of these heating units too with easier to manage, easier to clean units that are much more user friendly for the maintenance staff. We're going to add in the facilities to our clean energy committee so they can help us come up with a clean energy alternative to the way that hot air system works that was around when I was in the school. So that's just my 2 cents, and thank you very much.
So before, if I could, real quick, defer to the town manager, or just some ideas on possible usage?
Well, thank you. I was going to give my town manager report, but I'm glad the board's here to hear it as well. Obviously over the last week or two, I've been gathering a lot of information, what led us here in regard to the Henry Barnard situation, what do we do now to remediate it, and what do we do going forward. And I appreciate Tom's comments because that's sort of my thought process. I received 3 different memos, one in regard to the cleaning itself, the man hours it will take, one to comply with the Henry Barnard OSHA deadline of July 31st, and then to do all of the schools. It's about 750 hours. I met with DPW several times over the last couple of weeks, and although the staff wants to do it themselves and promises we'll do them all without any other help from the outside by the end of the summer, I think Chris said earlier, if you're a gambling person, some bets you take, some you don't. I don't want to gamble with this one. So they did give me what they believe just for the cleaning side to comply with Henry Barnard and all the schools. And I think if we were able to use approximately $20,000 from this, that we could accomplish it all and more, so we can be assured when the students return that it will be a clean, healthy, and safe environment. The next issue I had them look at is actually what Doug Finger had come and touched upon, HVAC and going outside, plus the council had talked about using outside vendors and contractors. So they gave me a proposal there. I told them to really sharpen their pencils and really what would it take to go in and look at all these other things, using outside contractors, some that we've had, and also using, there's a bump up of HVAC for one of our valued employees who's very, very efficient and capable. And in that range, they said it would be about $20,000. So I think that that's appropriate. It would be a good use of this if we could use it, and I think it couldn't be more appropriate that it's a Board of Ed and a town initiative, that they're helping us with the money. The town is then putting those resources back to make sure the students, staff, teachers, and visitors to our schools are safe. Further, in the long term, I also have looked at, we have a position that council funded for Public Works a few years back, and it's called a Environmental Health and Safety Manager. I've had meetings on that with Steve Belinda, Public Works. I'd like to retool a little bit. I'd like to rename it more Health and Safety Manager directly, with direct responsibility and oversight for all of our buildings, schools and towns. So we have one individual who is accountable to the Director of Public Works and the manager. That wasn't part of the old description. We worked today. I told them to write that in. Additionally, for public health and safety for all of the town employees, having been involved with safety for quite a few years, there's been a little bit of a focus that's gone away from that. I'd like this individual as well to be responsible for all safety in regard to whenever we have an incident, workman's comp or otherwise, we're supposed to do incident and investigative reports. I'd like him also to be the person that oversees that with all of our directors and supervisors to make sure that everybody is thinking about safety. My dad used to say, never give 2 people one job, it'll never get done. And I see a lot of that in some of these dualities. Let this person be accountable, let him be responsible, and he'll know it when he's hired. And it'll be advertised as such, and the job description will address it. So I think globally, I think that that addresses all the concerns I had, and that we would meet all the deadlines, and that we would put a good system in place in the future that this should not happen again.
Thank you very much. Deputy Mayor Suzak.
I guess for clarity for everybody out there, this check is for the money from this year's budget, the 17-18.
So it says on the bottom there.
And you have an extra amount coming from the state, and you have retooled some of your stuff so you'll have enough, so you'll have 1%. And I want everyone to understand that's a little bit different, I think, than when we used to put it away in CIP. The Board of Ed will have discretion on the spending of that 1%, and I'm very much in favor of that. And I will say, you know, it is really good when everybody in the town works together to solve a problem. It's really, it's a pleasure to work with people in the town.
So what we're looking for is next June, when you approve next year's budget, to take the money, the 400 plus whatever we add to it, and roll it over to 1920.
And then, and that's what I
That'll be part of next year's budget
This
resolution.
is return for 17, 18.
Right.
yep.
Thank you.
Councilor Falk, then Councilor Crissati.
Yeah, I want to thank you very much for the nice check, $100,000, not too bad. And I agree that the carryover of 1% is a good idea. I'm behind that as well. You know, we talk about the relationship between the board and the council, but it's not really about the board and council. It's about the individuals that serve on each of those organizations. And today there happens to be a great relationship, and we're working good together. But that could change 2 years from now or 4 years from now. And let's hope it doesn't. Let's hope that when there's a transition that the outgoing group spews off their good senses on the incoming group so that we can continue to work together. But that would be great. Thank you.
So, Councilor Crissati.
I'd like to thank the board for a check for $100,000. Now you're going to be setting a precedent. So next year at this time, we're going to be expecting that. We're going to be expecting another 100,000. Who knows? Maybe it might even be 150,000. But you never know.
The goal is to grow it to 700 plus and roll it over. So
I know. I think this money is definitely going to address the concerns that the town manager has stated to everybody. Great ideas with that HVAC. That is definitely needed. And also, we could hopefully possibly look at the custodial staff also. These buildings are huge, and they are understaffed. We want to talk about, you know, the cleanliness of the buildings. They don't have the manpower to do it. Hiring an outside service to help with this is a great idea. It's going to take a lot of pressure off of people. And they talk about the gamble. Well, I don't want to gamble on that either. So being positive and being proactive for everybody and working together, it's a start. And let's keep this relationship going and keep working hard for the benefit of the children and, from our aspect, the safety of our students. So thank you.
Any other comments? Any other comments from the members of the board?
no, I think we're all set.
And just closing, I mean, again, I think people don't realize we started working on this back in October. So this was back in October when we were hit. We thought we were going to hit with 26 million, which we took very seriously. So again, I'm not a gambling individual. When someone tells me something, I listen. And so we listened to what happened in October. We made it through, but then we still got hit with another 2.3 million in November, which was really was one of those jagged edge knives that we weren't expecting. We thought we were fine. We were moving on already, and that really hurt. And so I think what people need to understand here is that this is both on your side and our side, and I don't mean to say it that way, but from an elected body, we are trying to manage your money tightly. And that's what we're trying to establish, is when we want people to save money. Just like every single household in this town, I don't care if you're a family, you're a senior, you're a middle-aged folk, everyone does the same thing. They buy themselves time to the next paycheck, to the next bonus they're lucky to get one, or the next raise. That's exactly how we're budgeting here. This is exactly how we're doing it. We can't take a bet that we're not going to get hit next year, because you can't, no matter who gets elected in November. And I think that's how we're budgeting, and that's how you have to budget, just like every single family does in this town. And again, it also comes because we talk to each other. Everyone in this council and everyone on the board talks to each other, and so does the superintendent and, of course, the new town manager. Again, obviously, that's how it's supposed to work. You talk to each other. You hammer it out. And this has been really 6 months into working. We didn't just all of a sudden decide it's a great idea. No, we've been talking to each other. And I know you folks are going to continue to talk to us. You know I'm going to continue to talk to you. I know the council as well. I give you credit, again, for thinking differently. And maybe this is something we did different maybe a few years ago. It just feels different, though. You know, and that's the difference because, again, we're trying to actually establish where, again, and you can't, no one should be under the impression next year that you're going to give us another check for savings. That's not the point of it. The point is we should be able to have in public hard conversations about money, whether it's good or bad. And that's the whole point of this, is that luckily right now it's good, but 8 months ago it wasn't so good.
No, sir.
And it may not be so good in 3 months from now. I mean, because, depends who your accounting firm is. State technically isn't in a surplus. And so these are things that haven't gone away. Technically, Hartford isn't going to benefit from the $500 million they guaranteed over the next 10 years. Again, it depends who your accountant is. So, these are realities that we have to deal with. And I'm glad that you folks are on board kind of the same way we're on board, where, again, we got every dollar counts in every department. And I don't care if it's $10. $10 savings better than $10 in the red. So, again, I thank you. I thank the town manager for actually already being prepared. Again, I think actually it's already a nice way of approaching where, again, you're already having conversations. We already have ideas moving forward. And I think that's great. So, again, thank you. I don't know if anyone else has any comments, but again, this is hopefully we're going to continue to build on it. We're going to start our budget in the fall. We're starting in the fall. And we want to be prepared by next year. So if we have to make tough decisions next year, it's not going to be where everything's truncated because we only had a couple months to do it.
I just want to say thank you for all your hard work and your consideration to give it back to us. And this was a tough year for the budget. And I think it's a great idea to put some of this towards cleaning everything up. So thanks again.
So just logistics, do we need a formal resolution at some point to accept the money, or is it just, no?
No.
And then next year's budget will have to include the resolution as our budget?
Exactly.
Okay. Yep. Okay. Deputy Mayor Suzak.
Chris, when we return to the general fund, do we need a resolution to put it in the Board of Ed sinking fund?
I talked, John Wilcox didn't say for this part, but he's looking at that, and at that juncture, he will have that available for us.
Okay.
There will have to be when we designate it
I know it
in,
seems like
out.
semantics to the
No,
world,
we thought
but
about
it's
that.
not.
He said if they're first, we wanted to make sure that you were receptive to the idea. We didn't want to put the cart before the horse, and then he'll be prepared to
Well,
prepare
we have to
that.
wait till the end of the year. End of the
Right, you
fiscal
want to
year.
make sure, we want to make sure the check clears, as the chairman said.
Yeah, that better clear.
So our goal will be to actually have a formal resolution to move it into the sinking fund, so you actually know that we formally moved it where it's going to benefit what Chris just spoke of. All right,
Great.
so it'll be a formal resolution.
Great. And we'll be here to support it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. You guys got done. You guys are, unless,
to adjourn?
we have a motion to adjourn. Motion. Deputy Mayor Suzak, second by Councilor Nolan. All those in favor by show of hands. All those opposed? You got a half hour. Half an hour? Well, actually, no, 20 minutes. 20 minutes.
hearing.
Public hearing.
Public hearing.
Gotta get the council.
Welcome, everyone. This is the regular meeting of the Enfield Town Council. Monday, June 18, 2018. First item is the 6:50 public hearing on the Neighborhood Assistance Act. Public hearing ground rules. A public hearing will be scheduled to allow interested citizens an opportunity to express their opinions regarding the Neighborhood Assistance Act proposals. Item number one, roll call, please.
Counselor Arnone.
Here.
Counselor Bosco. Here. Counselor Sakala. Counselor Crisati.
Here.
Counselor Davis. Counselor Denny.
Here.
Counselor Fall. Here. Mayor Ludwig.
Here.
Counselor Muller.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Suzak.
Here.
Counselor Ungary.
Here.
There's 10 members present, one is absent.
The following notice of public hearing was published in the Hartford Current Friday, June 8, 2018. Town of Enfield, legal notice public hearing. The Enfield Town Council will hold a public hearing in the Enfield Town Hall, Council Chambers, 820 Enfield Street, Enfield, Connecticut, on Monday, June 18, 2018, at 6:50 PM to allow interested citizens an opportunity to express their opinions regarding the 2018 Neighborhood Assistance Act proposals. Submitted by Susan Olnicki, Town Clerk, dated June 5, 2018. Ground rules for the public hearing, there's no time limit, but I ask each person not to take up too much time so everyone will have an opportunity to speak. After each person who desires has had one chance to speak, I shall permit those individuals who desire a second chance. After those individuals desire a second time, I shall permit those individuals to desire a third, fourth, etc. time. Please refrain from personalities. Before we open up the public hearing, Chris.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have with us this evening Mark Serrato. He's with the Town Attorney's Office, and he will give a quick overview of this.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, good evening.
Evening.
My understanding is the community, pardon me? Yes, it is. The Community Renewal Team, I believe, submits 3 proposals to the Town Council for, I believe, some sort of community service program, and is overseen by the Department of Revenue Services, and the Revenue Services requirement is that the Council approve the 3 proposals. And my understanding is CRT then can give tax credits to folks who donate to those programs. That's basically it in a nutshell.
Okay. I will open up this public hearing to the public. Would anyone like to speak specifically on this public hearing? Going once? Would anyone like to speak specifically on this public hearing? Going twice. Hearing none, I declare the public hearing closed. Any questions from the town council? Hearing none, do I have a motion to adjourn? By Councilor Falk, second by Councilor Muller. By show of hands, all those in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Meeting to order. Welcome. Tonight's a regular meeting of the Enfield Town Council, Monday, June 18, 2018. Item number 1, prayer by Councilor Davis.
Lord, give us the strength and courage to do what's right for all people. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item number 3, roll call, please, Suzanne.
Councilor Davis.
Here.
Councilor Denny.
Here.
Councilor Fall.
Here.
Mayor Ludwig.
Here.
Councilor Muller.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Suzak.
Here.
Councilor Ungary.
Here.
Councilor Arnone.
Here.
Councilor Bosco.
Here.
Councilor Sakala. Councilor Crissati.
Here.
There's 10 members present, 1 is absent.
Item number 4, fire evacuation announcement. We have exit doors in the back of the building. Please, folks in the audience, exit right or left orderly in case of a fire. Also, we have doors to our right, to your left, to our left, your right, and if you exit the doors, go right out the doors to your left, down the stairs, around the staircase, and out the door. Item number 5, minutes of preceding meetings. Number 1, special meeting, June 4th, 2018. Do I have a motion to approve? By Councilor Deputy Mayor Suzak, seconded by Councilor Falk. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, by show of hands, all those in favor? Those opposed? Any abstentions? 9 in favor and 1 abstention. Councilor Bosco. Do I have a motion to approve the regular meeting of June 4th, 2018 by Councilor Denny, seconded by Councilor Crissati? Any discussion on the regular meeting minutes? Hearing none, by show of hands, all those in favor? Those opposed? 1 abstention. 9 in favor, 1 abstention. Special guest, item number 6. We have Alex Zachary, State Player of the Year. Come up, sir. Here you go, bud. Folks if we wouldn't mind coming up, we're honoring Alex tonight. How you doing? Nice to meet you. How you doing, Alex? All right, we have a proclamation. I'm going to turn it over to Councilor Crissati to, do I need a mic? Bobby,
Okay.
mic, sorry.
All right.
It's right.
One right there.
There you go. Go, sir.
All right. Thank you. First of all, it's my honor to bring up in front of us tonight Alex Zachary, who has been named the Connecticut State Player of the Year, which is recognized by the Connecticut Sports Writers Alliance. And we have a proclamation for you, Alex. Proclamation recognizing All-American Athlete 2017, Alex Zachary. Whereas baseball All-American Alex Zachary of Eastern Connecticut State University has been named the 2017 Athlete of the Year by the Connecticut Sports Writers Alliance. And whereas a 2013 graduate of Enrico Fermi High School, Alex played center field under Eastern baseball alumnus coach Bob Crissati, who was a 3-time All-Conference and Senior All-State selection and helped his baseball team to the conference title as a sophomore. And whereas after transferring to Eastern in 2016, he closed that season with a 20-game hitting streak and topped the 2017 campaign by hitting safely in his first 15 outings, giving him a school record of a 35-game hitting streak. And whereas Alex was selected for the Division III All-American First Team in 2017 after making third team the previous season, becoming the 56th All-American player in Eastern Connecticut State University baseball history to be selected by the American Baseball Coaches Association. And whereas Alex was the New England Player of the Year and the Little East Conference Player of the Year, batting .404 in 37 games, with 42 runs scored, 61 hits, 9 home runs, and 25 stolen bases in 29 attempts. And whereas in 2 years with Eastern Connecticut State University Warriors, Alex batted .388 with 120 hits, 19 home runs, 78 runs batted in, 36 stolen bases with a slugging percentage of .686. Now, therefore, Michael Ludwig, Mayor of the Town of Enfield, on behalf of the Town Council, the Town Administration, and the entire community, do hereby congratulate Alex Zachary on being named the 2017 Male Athlete of the Year, and wish him continued success in all of his future endeavors. And we thank you, Alex, for that. And congratulations. It's been a pleasure. After all these years, I've known you since you were a young guy, and here you are now, and this is for you. And thank you.
I don't think you ever turn this thing on, but
all right.
Well, just want to thank you guys for doing this. I really appreciate it. You know, hearing that red just brings me back to those 2 years at Eastern, and the 4 years I spent at Fairman were some of the best years of my life. And now, you know, I'm into my adulthood. I have a baby due July 18th, so that's my next chapter. And you know, looking back on this, I have a lot to grow from and keep growing as the years continue. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
How are you, man? Good to see you. You as well.
Congratulations. Thank you. Yep. Thank you.
Okay.
Good luck.
Thank you.
All right. Yes, we'll be there. All right. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you, Mike.
Oh, no problem. Good job.
Thanks.
That's off. Okay, item number 7, public communications petitions. Would anyone like to speak before the council? Wendy. Welcome, just name and address.
Wendy Costa, 49 Steel Road. I just wanted to take this opportunity to thank the council for your hard work, long hours, and dedication to the town during this latest budget exercise. While some may say being elected to public office means you signed up for this, this was probably unprecedented in the amount of the budget gap that needed closing, mostly due to fiscal mismanagement at the state level. Your task was not an easy one. As a former CFO in the private sector and as a tax-paying resident, I watched with keen interest to see how this problem would be solved. Just as I had my ideas about how I would have closed the gap, I'm sure each of you had your own ideas, as did many of the 40,000-plus town residents. Every service provided by the town is valued by some residents and criticized by others. Just monitoring social media, it is clear that unfortunately there is no one right answer. I personally don't like the answer of a 1.9 mil increase, and I hope that as tax-paying residents of the town, you don't like it either. Is it better than the 4 mills proposed in the town manager's budget? Yes. Is it a direct result of the state being unable to balance its budget without severely cutting the funding to the towns it serves? Yes. But it will be a hardship to many residents. That being said, you folks spent many hours over the course of many evenings holding public meetings on each department's budget. I watched many of them. I know how much you wanted to keep services as they currently are and to not impact jobs. But to continue providing comparatively higher levels of services with comparatively lower mill rate is not sustainable, especially when handed millions of dollars of funding cuts from the state. While I am sure we will see over the coming months the impacts of the budget cuts, such as increasing bulk trash pickups to $150, increases in our sewer rates, and how departments will function with the reductions in overtime, we as residents have to face the reality that things could not continue as they once were. I do hope that going forward the council will pay close attention to each and every request for funds, be they transfers, tax abatements, unplanned expenditures, whatever. Just because something is budgeted doesn't mean we have to spend it. And I do hope that periodic review of the town's expenditures to budget will become a way of life for the council. The financial well-being of our town should not be a once-a-year activity called the budget. In closing, I want to thank you for the efforts you put forth, the long hours and dedication you showed. With nearly all the budget amendments being passed unanimously, it shows that you set politics aside and did what you felt was in the best interest of all the citizens. I know it couldn't have been easy and that many of your decisions will be unpopular. I am pleased you chose not to tap into the reserve fund to solve the problem, as that is not a permanent solution. And while I may agree with some of the budget decisions and disagree with some, you were elected to represent the people of Enfield, and I feel that you clearly demonstrated your commitment to the town and its residents.
Thank you, Wendy. Appreciate it. Marie. Welcome, Marie.
Hi. Marie Pisner, 25 Roy Street. I too would like to thank the 11 people, Gina's missing, for your hard work. Each of you are volunteering your time to make Enfield a great community. You're making hard decisions and you're making hard choices. You have to deal with the severe cuts from the state to come up with a budget to keep the majority of Enfield services in force. As a council, you're coming together to make sure Enfield residents are cared for. Like it or not, residents need to understand that you are doing the best job you can with what you have to work with. For those of you here tonight listening and those of you watching in TV land, I challenge you, if you can do better than these 11 people, then come forward. Put your name on a ballot and run for their seat. I challenge you to volunteer your time and talent to make Enfield a great community. Don't belittle these individuals on social media and negative editorial. Step up and be heard. Both our town council and our Board of Ed are doing what needs to be done to the best of their ability. All of them have one thing in common: making Enfield the best town to live in and raise a family in. So let's come together, share our ideas and resources to make Enfield the town we love. Again, I remind everyone out there listening, please, if you can do better than any of the Board of Ed members and any of the council, then put your name out there. Because I'm going to tell you, it's not easy. So again, I thank you for the countless hours, all of you. You've done a fantastic job, and I support each and every one of you 100%. Thank you.
Thank you, Marie. Would anyone else like to speak to the council for the first time? Jack? Want to make sure, all right? Want to make sure.
I wasn't sleeping.
Anyone else like to speak for the council for the first time? For the second time, would anyone else like to speak for the council? Hearing none, I declare public communications closed. Moving on to item 8, councilor communication. Councilor Bosco.
Through the mayor to the town manager, it was just brought up to my attention about 10 minutes ago by Councilor Denny that I'm feeling a little short here. I wonder if we can get my chair fixed, because there's no absorption.
There's no money in the budget, sorry. Sorry.
I'll bring a pillow for you.
Looks like he's sitting on the floor.
And also, if we can send someone to pick up the garbage and trash along Town Farm Road, so this way when they do finally get to mow it, we don't mow the trash into the weeds. Thank you.
Councilor Falk. Councilor.
I attended a CCM conference training session this week, and it had to do with saving money on recyclables. And it was a case study. Apparently, they're doing this in Canada and Europe, even including Russia. It's called the Extended Producer Responsibility. How recycling works today. The company makes a product, they put it in a package. They sell it to the resident. Resident takes it home, uses it, they throw it in the recycling bin. The municipality comes, picks it up, and it's the responsibility of the municipality to educate the public on what to put in, what not to put in, and then they ship it off to some recycler who reprocesses it. And typically it was going to China, but China's clamped down. They're not paying what they used to pay for recycling. So it's going to get to the point, instead of them paying us to get rid of recyclables, we're going to be paying them just like trash. Well, here's how this proposed system works, the extended producer responsibility. The company or the producer sells a product in a package and then pays PRO, that's the Producer Responsibility Organization, to recycle the package. And we do this today with mattresses. You pay a fee when you buy the mattress in order to get rid of the mattress. I think they do the same thing with paint. So this would apply to everything you buy that comes in some kind of a package. So the producer is now responsibility for collecting what they made. So they finance the collection, they finance the recycling, and they finance educating the public on what to put where and how much. And you can still use your municipalities as haulers, and they pay you to do that because they're responsible for getting rid of it. And then it goes off to a recycler of their choice, and if it's clean and pure, they make money. If it's not, they lose money. But that's their problem, not ours. So it kind of saves some money in the municipal budget by eliminating the cost of getting rid of recyclable products. Puts the burden on the manufacturer. So I thought it was a great idea, and here's some of the benefits. Municipal cost savings, only the consumers pay, increased profitability in recycling, products designed for recycling. And an example that they used was a tennis ball container where it's plastic, but it has a metal rim around it. That's contaminated plastic. So what they would need to do is have a container with no metal ring around it, so it's pure plastic. More recycled content in new products, wider variety of products that can be recycled. Efficient regional system equals better education, and low contamination equals high quality and a better price that the manufacturer can get for selling his crushed up boxes and plastic bottles. So that was a proposal, and the guy who gave the presentation, he asked what can he do for us? I said, well, number one, you can summarize this project, this plan, and get it out to municipalities so that they understand your process, your program. And the second one, in order for us to do this, it would have to have some legislation at the state level in order to make it happen. So I says, give us some proposed legislation that we can take to our legislators and have them critique it and tweak it and what have you. And if we can get enough support in the House and the Senate, we can pass it and help out with our recycling problems as we have today. All right, so much for that. I have one more thing.
Yep.
Let's see. I joined the JC, the Enfield JCs, in 1972. That's the group that started the July 4th Town Celebration. And they started in the late 1960s after they created what is now known as Brainerd Park. It was held on the 4th of July and continued as such until the early 1980s. Attendance was always low and could only be enjoyed by those who had transportation or were in walking distance to the park. The mayor at the time suggested bringing it to the town green, which was closer to Thompsonville and within walking distance of the downtown residents. It was also decided to hold it on a weekend close to the 4th to allow more people to participate and attend. Attendance increased and eventually evolved into a 3-day event. Because membership in the JCs was in the decline, it was decided to form a private corporation to run the event, and that's who runs it today. They currently have over 20 directors that organize and run this event, plus hundreds of volunteers that help out throughout the weekend. Musical entertainment and various activities for people of all ages are provided free of charge. Volunteers are willing to help because of the enjoyment that residents and visitors have throughout the weekend. Seeing people dancing on the lawn to the music or seeing kids laughing and having a good time playing games is all the reward needed to keep everyone coming back every year. I've been volunteering in this event for 45 years. I was a charter member of the committee that now runs it. It's a lot of work that they put forward each year, and I wish to thank the committee members, past and present, for all their hard work and dedication, along with all the volunteers who show up every year to help make this such a successful event. So if you're in the area on July 6th, 7th, and 8th, be sure to stop by the Enfield Town Green and partake in some hometown fun. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Casati.
The month of June has been pretty busy with a lot of activities that are happening around town, and some of the events deal with graduation. First of all, I'd like to recognize the ETLA graduation ceremonies that were held at Alcorn School. Congratulations to all of the students who graduated from the Transitional Academy and are moving on with their careers and ventures in rehabilitation services. Also, we have coming up, we have graduation coming up at Enfield High School. Congratulations to all the the grads for 2018. And I know a number of us went to the, at Mount Carmel, the National Honor Society seniors were recognized, and they were proud and to state where they're going to be going to, what college or university or armed forces that they might be joining. And that was quite the event, dedicated to all their academics and their services to the town of Enfield. Also last week was the State Special Olympics Games that were held in New Haven. And I want to thank the Enfield Police and the members of the Allied Stars who participated in the torch run that came through Enfield. Nice to see the coaches and the athletes who actually were jogging down Route 5. It was quite the procession. All the coaches and the athletes who competed in soccer, track, and swimming in the weekend, they have to be commended for their efforts and representing our town with class. It's a big contingency that we have going down to New Haven for the full weekend, and they have to be commended. Special thanks also last week, where it was a unified track meet held at Enfield High School under the direction of Armando Ramos, and he has to be singled out and continuing in that program. Also, last week, the North Central Opiate Task Force meeting about vaping and e-cigarettes. What a presentation that was held, and is informative about nicotine addiction. A number of us attended that also. Also, the Commission on Aging held their symposium on elder abuse. Congratulations to Pat Lenahan and the members of the Commission for conducting this informative meeting that was held at the Holiday Inn. Jessica Russell, from the social worker from Neighborhood Services, was there. Lisa Albert from Elder Abuse, the State Protective Services, along with Allison Woodward, and Honorable Tim Keeney, the Judge of Probate, was there. And this is a very serious issue that has to deal with the seniors. And there's one thing I just, when I walked out of there, if you suspect any abuse from a neighbor, don't hesitate to call. Matter of fact, you're a mandated reporter. And so this is was a great program. It was eye-opening to all of us that were in attendance. I also want to give a shout out to the senior home repair. I think they've helped 58 households to date through the end of June, and they do a real nice job with that. I just wanted to just state a few of these things that we've been attending. This is through the mayor to Chris, the town manager. I've had some complaints from some of the residents down by, down by South River, down that area as Nantucket, Cottage Green, in regards to cars being illegally parked on the road, because I think a lot of those tenants have parking spaces that actually they might even have small lots in those areas. And I know that there's been a lot, some action that's been going on over there, and I think, some blighted areas too. I mean, it's pretty rough looking. All right, so I don't know if we can notify the owners of these rental properties about cleaning up their area, or have their tenants clean up their areas around them, and heads up with the parking. Maybe the police got to start ticketing these people, and who knows? You'll probably find a lot of these cars probably aren't even registered. So, that's something that's been brought to my attention. I wanted to bring it up tonight. Okay, so thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Deputy Mayor Suzak.
Gee, I'm going to segue out for you, Bob, because I want to make sure that the Scannick Park, that they're enforcing the no parking all along the road there. And I know we're going to start to get resident complaints, but if we can get just a little brief rundown of what we're doing. And I haven't met with the state. I know Bill Lee was meeting with the state as to passive recreation areas that we have. I guess the other question I have is, when you go out today, we have warming centers for the winter, but we also have places that people can go to escape the heat. So if we can kind of get a list of places that are available for people to take a brief reprieve from the heat. And share the road. I went down Fletcher Road, and there was my share the road. I'm like, where's the one on South Road? Isn't that a bike path? So that's been a bike path quite a while. I'd like to see the share the road get out and put those down, because what they do is not only define bike paths, they just kind of give drivers an awareness that you need to be paying attention, then you don't totally own every road. So, and also there's a nice article on the reorganization of the senior center, library, and recreation, which has prompted me to say I'll be calling for a leisure meeting so we can all get together and see how that's. Hey, this is a dream come true for me. First meeting in leisure, I said, where's the senior center? And they said, nope, not coming. And now they're coming, and I, for one, am very happy over that. And Tom and I rode the train. We went down for the festivities in Windsor Locks. First selectmen's were there. We were there to represent Enfield and hope to see our dot on the map, right, Tom?
2020, it says.
2020, they're telling us. But you know what? We don't need a fancy station, everybody. We just need someplace where people can get off the train. It'll grow from there. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Ungary.
Last week, the adult ed had their graduation over at the Annex, and that room was packed out, so I commend Mr. Malley and his whole crew over there. And the Board of Ed did a great job congratulating all the students, and they work really hard to complete that. So congratulations to them, and to all the seniors at Enfield High that will be graduating. Congratulate them too and their families.
Councilor Davis.
First, Wendy and Marie, thank you for coming up and speaking. Very nice, kind words, and also your thoughts about the budget. I want to do a special shout out from last Tuesday, the American Legion Post 80 on Route 5 and our local Girl Scouts did the flag burning ceremony and discarded of all the faded and flags that had to be properly discarded of. So for people to remember, if you have to drop off any flags, you go to American Legion's Post 80 on Route 5, you drive around back, and you'll see a red, white, and blue giant mailbox 24/7. Just drop your flags in. And they do a great job in a beautiful ceremony, and it taught the kids how to do it too, which was really nice and thoughtful. And it was just a really great thing to see. And then also, through the mayor to town manager, Mr. Bromson, I personally want to thank you for everything you've done with Barnard. Anytime there's been a question sent to you, you were on it immediately, you're giving facts and answers. And also your dedication to want to make sure just not Barnard's properly clean, that all our schools are clean and taken care of for our whole community. So I personally wanted to say thank you very much for that. It's well noted throughout the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Suzak.
I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules and move items 1A and 2, and 1A and A2. E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, and Q to miscellaneous and proceed to vote.
I think we need to reread that. The motion made by Deputy Mayor Suzak, seconded by Councilor Falk. Any discussion on the motion? Suspending the rules? Hearing none, by a show of hands, all those in favor? Those opposed? Abstentions? 10 in favor, 0 against. And before we move on, I just want a couple quick things. I was at the dog park on the 13th, I believe it was. I want to thank Jim Copeland for inviting me, and I can tell you, if dogs could vote, I would never lose. I would never lose. I also want to thank Officer, and I apologize right now for ruining his name, Culisano. Am I saying it right? With Nova, who did a great job with Nova. Again, folks want to know why we're dedicated to having dogs as part of the canine unit. get a little showing from this dog. It's fantastic, and he was great talking to the residents. Did a really good job. He was very professional, and of course, the star is the dog. And again, we're committed to that in Enfield, and so I think he did a really good job. I also, again, I know folks talked about high school. Also, I was at the awards night. We have a lot of talented kids in our high school. I mean, I know we hear a lot of bad things, but I can tell you right now, if you're at that night, it went for 2 hours. I mean, I told the board we got to cut their awards budget. I mean, but anyways, the kids, we have some very talented kids in this town, and it showed that night with all the different awards, all the colleges they're going to, with the service they're going into, and honestly, they're all pretty good kids. So we got to be doing something all right. And I know I say that a lot, but I think we just need to keep reminding. And this is more to come. But again, I want to, through the PAR, I've had some discussions with Chief. I'd like to start exploring a block watch to start setting up to help with some of the issues we're hearing in certain parts of town. I know I can't remember if we did it years ago, but I would like to start exploring that. And to Chris, to the Chief. And we've had some early discussions with some residents and more details to come. But again, we like to continue to find ways of getting residents involved to help keep our town, safe. And I think that's it. Sorry, Councilor Denny.
Just thinking about it to the mayor, and I know he's involved and Councilman Bosco, we need to reach out and not forget the Mullen Road residents who have been reaching out to us to complain about the truck stop that we pulled out of there, and I think we need to have a public works meeting as soon as possible, or try to reach out to those people. I think the mayor, you have all their names,
Yeah,
right?
I do. So
and to get a meeting set up with them now that I think the construction's done now, right?
Do you want to wait till special committees to address that? The DPW, you want to?
Doesn't matter.
Sorry, yeah. Councilor Bosco?
Yeah, I'd like to have a meeting. At that time here, we can talk to for the residents. We'll do it on a subcommittee meeting, and that way they can come and maybe we can have some back and forth with them or something. Just for everyone to know, what happened was we had figured a roundabout and a traffic island. The two in conjunction were supposed to stop or eliminate the truck traffic going down that residential portion of the road. Well, we got to the time that we were ready for construction and someone held out on their property and would not sell us the right-of-way to make the roundabout. So the decision was made, instead of going eminent domain, we just took out the second roundabout. No one's thinking about what dangers the traffic island would create. Well, there's a letter from the police department that said that we were creating more of a danger because the trucks were going into the other lanes to get around this traffic island, and the road was all breaking up. So Ed, Donna, and I decided at the meeting that it was time to remove that traffic island because we created this issue. If someone got hurt, it would be our responsibility. And the neighbors are trying to see what they can do to stop the traffic. I've been sort of holding off till they got done with the construction, so now there's a few more things I'd like to see done so we can really start tracking how much truck traffic it is. I spoke with the owner of Connecticut Mulch, and he was told by the police department to send the vehicles out easterly because of the construction work to the west, which driving in big trucks while the guys have the road opened up was very dangerous too. Last year we had a cement mixer almost roll over because the road was not safe for him to drive through, and he did, and we had to pull him up and get him on the road. So the road is done now, or substantially done. We'll wait a few more weeks to see where the traffic and the truck traffic goes, and then we'll set up our meeting, and we can discuss if there's what we're going to do, if anything, to straighten out that problem. And that's it.
And last thing, I also want to thank
I got one other thing, Mike.
had all the Safe Grad parents who will be putting in a late night on Thursday night. Again, another great example of parents dedicating their time so the kids are safe. I know a lot of good people have done a lot of work over the last year. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wondering when ETV is still down now? Because I got to text someone. Do we have any idea how, if we, under town manager communication, if we got an idea on how long and what's wrong with it, or can he come up now?
Why don't we wait till town manager? Let's wait till town manager report.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So, item 9, town manager report.
Thank you. Good evening. We'll bring Comey up in a moment. I'll briefly report on some matters. What I figure I will do from the last council meeting during your communication, I passed all of those inquiries on to staff, and we've responded to all of them. So unless there are specific questions, I won't take up this important time. But if there's follow-up, you could ask me. But all of the ones on the list, I forwarded on to you. Some new matters. One, the cooling centers. We do that every year, and I'll make sure that we post it this year. I know in the libraries, they even say the lobby of the police department, so we can get that information out, especially after today reminds everybody about it. This morning I received a call from Congressman Courtney, and this is in regard to the crumbling foundation issue. And apparently, in the state level, they get about $13 million from the community development block grants. Out of the $13 million last year, Governor Malloy designated $1 million for inspections, and that was supposed to be pushed out to the state. Unfortunately, it was a very small window, Congressman Courtney said, and only 6 towns, Coventry and some surrounding ones, got their applications in time, and it was closed. So $250,000 of the $1 million was earmarked. They lobbied to get it reopened. I know he indicated to me that Bryant had said, geez, we didn't even have a chance. It was a blink and it was over. We'd really like a chance if it reopened. So he called to say they prevailed upon the commissioner to reopen it. They didn't put back $750,000 of a balance, but they put back $500,000. And he sent me a copy of a letter from Vernon, Ellington, and Stafford, because they're like sort of at the ground zero of it, lobbying to say we'd like to be interested in some of those funds. What these funds will be used for is inspections. I talked to Della today, and she's done a lot. She had gone out to about a dozen people affected in our town, and it was through a CROG program. This is different, and she recommends that we apply for it. Congressman Courtney said we could just have to send the letter to show our intent so that we're on the list this time, and basically it's up to $4,000 for inspections, and that it comes through the town, so the resident doesn't have to do it. We actually direct it and we pay for it from this money. So I prepared a letter that I signed, and it's for the mayor as well. So with the consent of the council, I would like to have him sign that tonight, and we can send it tomorrow to the state Connecticut Development Director saying we're interested, keep us apprised. And Della thinks it's a good idea. CROG funding may stop. This is additional funding. Congressman Courtney thought perhaps it may even be expanded for some low and middle income people more than what it's designated for now. So we're going to do that. I'll keep this open for the mayor so he doesn't forget, and sign it, and we'll send that tomorrow. We did the PAR report, so if there's any questions, I know there's one follow-up. We're looking at that. There have been updates, and we're trying to slim it in some areas and expand it in others. But staff has been good, even with the summer vacations, to make sure that they're complying with that, because council, through me, let them know that it was a priority. And now, Comey, if you would like to come up on the ETV question.
We know who did it.
It wasn't me. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, ETV has been off the air since, I believe it was Monday, either Sunday night or Monday morning. The problem is that the one device, the piece of hardware that puts us on the air, lost its power supply. Unfortunately, they haven't made it since 2010, and I've been trying to find one online. And I haven't been able to do that, but I have been able to find a universal power supply that should be overnight shipped here by tomorrow or Wednesday. We should get it. And if that works, we'll be back on the air by the end of this week. If it's not just the power supply, or if the power supply blew out and then blew up the hardware, then we're looking at another 2 or 3 week delivery time to get a new piece of equipment so we can get back on the air. In the meantime, we're still on YouTube Live, and still archived on YouTube. And also, you can also see any of the meetings the next morning on the ETV website, on the town website.
It's like the Truman Show where it just goes across and you get the highest rating you've ever gotten?
Whatever it takes.
Any questions for? Great explanation. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Councilor Arnone.
So on your PAR, on the PAR, I see, let's see, website launch, Monday. Big deal. We've been waiting for this for a while. Hopefully it's what we need to see. So I just want everybody to get ready for that. Freshwater pond also, I see you have on there dredging. It's getting ready to get dredged. And I know we pushed that a couple of years.
Yep.
So I'm sure there's a lot of dredging material.
Yeah, we had to resolve some issues with the Army Corps of Engineers, and we did, and we signed it, and that should be moving forward.
And last but not least, you know, I love the PAR, and I didn't think anybody could do better with the PAR until you just put a cash flow chart on here that is genius. And I think every nonprofit I've been a part of has a cash flow. So we know exactly what we're spending, when we're spending, how much we got left in the budget line items. Genius, thank you. You did what I didn't think could be done. It's improved, and I hope we continue with that.
I know how important it is to the council, and so do the directors, and I reiterate and thank them at the staff meetings which take place tomorrow. And to that end, I would just mention, in regard to a comment that Wendy had made about you can't just do the budget in a couple months at the end of the year. I think she's singing to the choir, and we've just scheduled going forward monthly meetings of governance and now /finance to look at these things a year ahead and be watching them on all of the issues the council is concerned about and try to be proactive, not reactive. And I welcome the commitment. It's a lot more time for the council, but I think it will give you a great handle month to month so that when you get to the budget, you're not overwhelmed with all the figures and statistics. And of course, then you get thrown curveballs from the state and it's difficult to even think straight. So there's always room for improvement.
That's all. Thank you.
Councilor Crisati.
Okay. I noticed that as an initiative with the police department for a task force, I think that's a great idea. Has there been any talk at this point in terms of creating a task force to combat the drug problem that we have in town here?
Yes.
I know there's a lot of, being proactive once again, and the initiatives that the chief is being put, that he's brought forth and everything in terms of, the community policing and, being, walking patrols and all of that. In my discussion with some of the officers on the staff, with the drug problem that we have, and I don't know what the data is in terms of the number of calls that they've been on in terms of, ODs and bringing people back to, reviving them. All right, there's got to be data on that.
I actually received that today.
Oh, did you? Oh, okay. Well, you were reading my mind. Okay. So I'm sure that there's enough data there to help support that maybe we can institute a task force, whether it's a 3 or 4 guy operation to combat going after these drug dealers that are coming in from Springfield and Hartford. All right. So, but thank you for that.
Just so that you know, I have spoken to the chief. I asked him to prepare some options in regard to a task force. I received that today, and that's why I know that information was in the preamble of it to show the statistics over the last several years. They're shocking, and they're very disturbing about the number of overdoses and those that have been fatal. I'll also just mention the chief did meet, because you had asked for a follow-up in regard to the protective custody issue that he addressed last time he was here. He has met with some of our state legislators. Apparently, at the legislature, it was discussed. It didn't come out of committee, but they are still looking at it, and he's aware, and they are aware of our concern about somebody who, overdoses and then just signs a release and gets no help. So that he's looking at. He did prepare various options for me, which I want to take the time to review. As you indicated, there are different scenarios, but all of them, involve specialized, people, a unit, and it really takes away from the force and therefore there's a budget impact. So I will review it. I'm going to be meeting with him tomorrow, and then we'll come forth. At least what I had said to him is we've got to give the council options. And even though it might not be something, maybe we can't do A, maybe we can do B, maybe we can phase in C, because it is a priority. So we'll look at it, and I think the consensus of the council is maybe we can't do everything people ask of us, but at least we know what the options are, and we can consider them. And so that's what he did, and I'll look at it and be back to you so we can review it.
Thank you.
Any questions for Chris?
You're welcome.
Chris, just add two things. So I appreciate you putting a rating call in here. So can we actually get a detailed follow-up on what the rating agencies look at, so folks understand why we do some of the decisions that are made? So if they understand, if we decided, for example, to use $3 million out of the fund balance, then maybe we get our bond rating lowered 1 point, and that's worth $1 million in debt service to the town. It's great but let's follow it up where, again, we're trying to educate people on the impact of the budget and why we do need a rainy day fund and why we need to continue to keep it funded the way it is.
Well, I'll tell you, it's an amazing process. Right. And the rating call that the mayor's referring to is Standard & Poor's reviews us, and they make a recommendation as to our rating. And as you know, we, as many other municipalities, were adjusted downward. So the rating call, they told me you have to attend this rating call. So I looked and found out, the importance of it. And there's a tremendous amount of documents. We've put together, John Wilcox, we actually have a consultant that assists us in doing it, because it's a big impact as to what you'll be able to go out to, put bonds out, and what we can charge or what our cost is going to be. A change in our rating could have a huge effect and impact that cost. But there is a lot. We got actually a letter back from Standard & Poor's. These are the things we want to address. But really, it's really this is your town, Enfield. We had to put together an entire presentation addressing, they want to know all kinds of information about your town, projects you're doing, growth, development, who's coming in, what changes have you had in upper management. It's exhaustive. So we can share that. I'd rather do it after the phone call. No, we don't jinx it, but you're right. It's a big thing. I had no idea, even sitting here for 29 years, I never realized what those calls involved, but they really want to look at your town from top to bottom. It's like an auditor report. So we're working hard, John Wilcox, all of the directors, all the information is being gathered together to give them the best view of the town so we get the most favorable rating. But it is a very interesting process. To that end, and you had asked previously, one item was going to be on the agenda tonight. It's going to be on the July meeting because it involves the intermodal transportation center and the funding. I got a call, and it's from federal and state, for a phone call to be available to discuss that station for Enfield. So that's going to be very interesting. That's coming up in the next week or two. But I will say to you, it's amazing the impact the train. You rode the train. Mark and I and John Wilcox went to Windsor Locks to meet with the first selectman because we had a presentation here, maybe in the fall, on a TIF district. It's a tax incremental financing. But I wanted to see, they were the first ones to do it in the state in Windsor Locks, so what did it mean? What's it involve? And we saw the Montgomery rehabilitation in their Main Street. It's fascinating. I think there are uses for it in Enfield, but my point is, in talking to him, now that they're going to have the stop and they've got the full architecture, he showed us the plans for their train station. He said the stimulation already, people interested in buying parcels near there and what it's going to do for them because they're getting a station, is pretty amazing. So at the next meeting, I want to have a presentation about where we are on that and all the different components of it. And hopefully, I think that phone call will have taken place, and I'll have more information for you then.
And just in closing, I want to give folks an idea, just something. Councilor Denny was involved when I was involved. We had a complaint about something on one of the roads that were being worked on. I just think folks need to understand how much time everyone spends. I know Councilor Denny was involved, I was involved, but it's amazing in one morning how the schools got involved, the DPW did its job, the police did its job, 2 council folks were in job, the town manager was involved, the superintendent was involved, the owner of the bus company himself came up and took a look at what was going on. The owner of the construction company was involved. I mean, it was in a matter of 6 hours. We had an army of people, and so I get when we do things wrong, we admit it, and we should. But I also want to let folks know that when there's an issue, every single person, whether a Democrat or Republican, takes it pretty seriously, and then so doesn't the town, and so doesn't the owner of these companies. who, again, I know they only get beat up because, again, they're owners and they make money. But, man, they took it pretty darn seriously. And it is, sometimes, again, I know we need to fix what we need to fix. But when some stuff actually, again, folks are willing to jump on, it's pretty impressive. And I want to thank you and everyone else involved, Councilor Denny as well, because, again, it was amazing how quickly everyone got involved and made sure that, again, the bus had a chance to go into an area that, again, it's the roads being constructed. You know, it's a tough area, and so I think we took
2-foot hole
right,
there.
but everyone took it seriously, and I think I think that's folks who outside of Councilor Denny and I need to be commended for, because they didn't just say, well, it's just construction. School's out in a week. We'll worry about it. Not one person said that. So again, I think it's just a testament of both your office, the school, and the owners of those companies, and of course the chief of police as well, who sent an officer over just to make sure there's nothing wrong with the kids. So again, there's examples every single day of stuff working, and we'll fix the stuff that's not working, but it's nice to talk about a little bit the stuff that does work. I think there's a great example. So again, well done for your office and well done by the superintendent of schools. So that's it for PAR. So we're going to go to the town attorney's report. Mark.
Well, unfortunately, I have no official report for you tonight.
Maria said like 10 words last time. Any questions for the town attorney? Item 11, report of special committees of the council. Councilor Muller.
I have a joint facilities update. On June 13th, Chris Cycli went to the state and everything is ready for the JFK grant. Also on June 15th, Chris Cycli brought the drawings to the Building, Fire, Health Department for the Barnard Roof project. So all those have been hand-delivered.
Right. And Chris, you kind of stole my thunder on the general governance to Wendy and Maria. First of all, great job of speaking for the council. And general governments will be meeting now on a monthly basis. And the goals are to become sort of a mini board of finance where we report back to the council. So again, we are on top of all that's going on. Second thing is we're investigating whether we want to start a blight board, which I know Councilman Bosco has been saying for a long time. So again, other issues, and then really the two things that I think we'll have, Jonathan's not here, but again, folks have been asking for, I think by, if not July, by August meeting, we'll be able to report on the energy referendum, and of course the insurance, the money that we had saved on insurance. I know he was going to do a final reconciliation. So those are some of the things we're going to meet as general governance. And so we plan on starting the budget on Friday of next week. So that's it. So item 12, old business, appointments A, 1 through 2. We have none on page 1. On page 2, again, council, old business, council appointments, items 3 through 16. Do we have any appointments?
We have appointment number 14 for Enfield Culture and Arts.
So we have a motion to, item 14, Enfield Culture Arts. We have a motion to remove from the table.
So moved.
By Councilor Arnone, seconded by Councilor Denny. Any discussion on removing from the table? Hearing none, by show of hands, all those in favor? Those opposed, we have 9 in favor, 0 against. Now, do we have a nomination? I'm sorry, we haven't had a nomination first.
Yeah, I'd like to nominate Jennifer Ryan.
So we have a motion for Jennifer Ryan, seconded by Councilor Denny. Is there any discussion? Is there a motion to close nominations? By Deputy Mayor Suzak, seconded by Councilor Falk. All those in favor of closing nominations, by show of hands. Those opposed, we have 9 in favor, 0 against of closing nominations. Any discussion on the main motion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Councilor Davis. Oh, is not here. Councilor Denny.
Jennifer Ryan.
Councilor Falk.
4.
Mayor Ludwig.
4.
Councilor Muller.
4.
Deputy Mayor Suzak.
Jennifer Ryan.
Councilor Ungary.
4.
Councilor Arnone.
4.
Councilor Bosco.
4.
Councilor Crissati.
4.
There's 9 in favor, none against, and no abstentions.
Okay. Do we have any other items 15, 16 remain on the table on page 2? We have nominations on the top of page 3, councilor nominations from 17 to 23. Do we have any nominations? Item B, appointments by the town manager, 1 through 7. Do we have any nominations? None on page 3.
Council, we have 3.
That's the next page.
Oh, you're on the, okay,
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah. On page 4, we have, again, town manager, 8 through 12. Item C, resolution dissolving the Enfield High Committee stays on the table, I'm assuming. Item 13, we move on to new business. There are no consent agenda. And we have item B, appointments by the town council. Do we have appointments by items 1 through 4? Do we have a,
North Central Health?
item number 3?
Yep.
Make a motion?
Do we have a motion to approve, or we don't have to remove, it's new business, we just make a motion yet. Do we have a nomination for number 3? North Central Health District Board of Directors, it's for a reappointment.
I'll nominate Linda DeGray.
Nomination by Counselor Falk, seconded by Deputy Mayor Suzak for Linda Gray. Do we have any discussion on the motion? Do we have a motion to close nominations?
So moved.
By Counselor Falk, seconded by Counselor Crissati. All those in favor of closing nomination by show of hands? Opposed, abstentions? We have 9 in favor and 0 against. Any discussion on the main motion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Counselor Davis is still out. Counselor Denny?
4.
Counselor Falk?
4.
Mayor Ludwig?
4.
Counselor Muller?
4.
Deputy Mayor Suzak?
Linda DeGray.
Counselor Ungary?
4.
Counselor Arnone?
4.
Counselor Bosco?
4.
And Counselor Crissati?
4.
There's 9 in favor, none against, and no abstentions.
Item 4, do we have a nomination?
I'd like to nominate Marion Turner.
Motion by Counselor Falk, seconded by Counselor Ungary. Any discussion on the nomination? Do I have a motion to close nomination? By Counselor Muller, seconded by Counselor Falk. All those in favor of closing nomination by show of hands? Those against, we have 9 in favor and 0 against. Is there a discussion on the main motion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Counselor Davis is still out.
Against.
Counselor Falk?
4.
Mayor Ludwig?
4.
Counselor Muller?
4.
Deputy Mayor Suzak?
Mary Ann Turner.
Counselor Ungary?
4.
Counselor Arnone?
4.
Counselor Bosco?
4.
And Counselor Crissati?
4.
There's 8 in favor, 1 against, and no abstentions.
Item C, Town Manager report, Town Manager appointee, 1 or 2?
No.
None. Item number 3 on page 5, none. We have no appointments for the P and Z Commission on item D. Item 14, items for discussion, items A, 1, 2, and B through Q have been moved to miscellaneous. As we move to item 15, miscellaneous. Items 1 and 2 on the consent agenda. One is the authorizing town manager to submit for the state Connecticut Neighborhood Assistance Grant, and the other is authorizing town manager to apply for a Works of Care Suicide Prevention Grant.
So moved.
Counselor Nolan, seconded by Counselor Denny. Any discussion on the consent agenda? I can do a show of hands, right? Yeah, by show of hands, all those in favor of the consent agenda? Those again, opposed? We have 8 in favor and 0 against. Okay, move on to items, again, under miscellaneous, item E. Discussion resolution of item E. Let me just get there, sorry. Way ahead of me. Okay, item E, discussion resolution, request for transfer of funds for information technology for $100,000. Resolve that in accordance with Chapter 6, Section 8F of the Town Charter, the following transfers hereby made. 2, information technology from Technology Services, account number 2401 to 100-533400 of $100,000 from information technology of technology equipment out of the Fund 240-121-00-573, 400 of $100,000. Certified that the funds are available by John Wilcox, our Director of Finance, on June 14th. Approved by the Town Manager, Chris Bronson, on June 14th.
So moved.
By Counselor Falk.
Second.
Seconded by Counselor Arnone. Any discussion on the resolution? Chris, maybe just a...
Yeah, briefly, this is just, this was a change in strategy that the IT from purchasing equipment to leasing, so they've got to adjust the accounts accordingly, and it is both for the town and Board of Education. There's a cover memo which actually delineates the breakdown of the $100,000 into where it's going.
Counselor Arnone.
That's what I wanted to hear. Thanks for remembering that.
Any discussion on the resolution? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Counselor Denny?
4.
Counselor Falk?
4.
Mayor Ludwig?
4.
Counselor Muller?
4.
Deputy Mayor Suzak?
4.
Counselor Ungary?
4.
Counselor Arnone?
4.
Counselor Bosco?
4.
Counselor Crissati?
4.
There's 9 in favor, none against, and no abstentions.
Again, under miscellaneous, item F, discussion resolution, a resolution authorizing the waiver of property maintenance fines, for 5 Stephen Drive. Whereas pursuant to Chapter 14, Article 4 of the Enfield Town Code, property maintenance, the owners of 5 Stephen Drive property owners were cited for blighted premises and were fined accordingly. And whereas pursuant to Section 14-1A of the Enfield Town Code, the property owner did not contest their liability for the violation before a duly appointed hearing officer, and whereas the hearing officer found the property owner liable, ruling in favor of the town. Whereas the hearing officer notified the property owner in writing of such decision, and whereas pursuant to Section 14-183 of the Enfield Town Code, property maintenance liens securing the fines were recorded in the town's land record, and whereas the property owner has approached the town with a prospective buyer, and whereas the property owner has requested the town waive the portion of the unpaid property maintenance lien in order to allow the short sale of the property, and whereas the above noted request pertains only to the property maintenance lien filed per Town Code Section 14-183, the cleaning lien fees of 5 Stephen Drive have been paid in full, and whereas the alternative to waiving a portion of liens is for the property remaining to spare, now therefore be it resolved, the Enfield Town Council does authorize a waiver of a portion of the property maintenance liens of 5 Stephen Drive and authorize the amount of $2,500 to be accepted as payment in full for the delinquent clean and lien expenses and for the property maintenance liens prepared on June 11, 2018 by the Town Manager's Office.
So moved.
By Councilor Arnone, seconded by Councilor Crisati.
Again, we requested and received a lot of backup information on this because we don't take the waiver of liens lightly. But if the purpose of it is to get the property fixed up, which is the purpose of putting the liens in the first place, and getting it back on the market and being productive again, that's the goal. So this contractor who's buying it, we actually found another property they had done and turned around and did it very well. We had some follow-up questions from one of the counselors that we provided. So it is a reduction, but we are getting a portion of it, and we're confident that he will turn the property around and fix it up and get it back on the market. And once again, that's the purpose of having the ordinance and imposing fines in the first place. And to a point made earlier about the Blight Review Board, we're looking at that. Town Attorney's Office is reviewing Hartford and some other communities, and one of the purposes too will be, right now it's sort of up to us and to you to say, well, are they worthy? I think we should have a little better procedure and policy in place, so we actually have a board to review it, to make an impartial recommendation according to the policy to say, yeah, we recommend it or we don't. And we'll have that information for you going forward. But staff fully recommends that you adopt this one.
Councilor Denny.
I've been by there, and it's amazing what has been done at that property already. So, I mean, I'm sure every resident that lives on that street that was next to that place is happy also, because it really fixed it up pretty good also already.
So I'm all for this. This is the reason why we did the original blight ordinance back in the 90s. So here's where I get a little fundamental, and this is where my beliefs get in the way here. Who owned the property? Was the bank owning the property, or is it still in the original homeowners?
The original homeowner, I believe, still owns it. She's in I believe it's a woman. She's in the process of selling. The bank, I think it's U.S. Bank National Association, they hold, I think their mortgage is around $135,000 to $140,000. They're currently foreclosing on the property, so that's the status of the property. So
how often did we have to apply a lien because they didn't mow or keep the property up?
Our office actually filed a clean and lien. I think it was around $300 a while back, but that was paid back. And then the tax office files the liens for the fines. They do that once, and the lien basically says it's X number of dollars, and it continues to grow at $75 per day until the violation is.
I know they had originally come in at $5,000, which is half the liens, and now the resolution says $2,500. Again, I hate to be someone a stickler for process, but again, they had asked for for half of their waiver, and we would approve this a while back. And now they need an extra $2,500. I know it's a small amount of money, but I don't know. This one's.
I understand, and we're letting people know that, and be careful what you ask for, because you may get it, and then when you get it, we're going to stick to that. And in this case, they came back. We said we would still put it forth to you, given the grand scheme of the project. But I concur. If they come forward and ask for 5, they should stick with that. And the council was inclined to do it. They came back and we proposed it again. That's why I had Mark get involved, really dig into the figures. And it's such a depressed property, as you said. I think the mortgage is
The mortgage is about $135,000.
And the sales price is $70,000. So they say where the other money's going towards. So it's up to you. I think sometimes we don't want to cut off our nose to spite our face, but moving forward, that's why I would like a committee to be able to say, this is what it is, and you know, we're
Right,
not
I'd
going
like
to
to have a
divert
set
from it.
process. Are we saying
Yes.
50%, 75% seems a little steep for me,
Yep.
right, quite frankly. I mean, it's being honest, even I know, again, it's a small amount of money. And again, the point is, the exact same thing's happening with the point of what the blight ordinance is to actually get a blighted property. If you live in that neighborhood, it brings down your whole neighborhood, and the point is to bring it back up. But it's like, yeah, God, I mean, this
I
is one.
understand.
This one tears a little bit at me. So
My reaction was the same when they
right.
came to me and said, now they want to reduce it further.
Right.
We're obligated to bring it to you.
No, fair.
another
Councilor Bosco, then
2,500
Councilor
next
Arnone. So Councilor Bosco, then Councilor Arnone.
Yeah, at 5,000, I could support it, but 2,500, I can't. So,
All right, so if you asked any of the neighbors, they say take the 2,500 because I'm real happy. Because that was one of the biggest complaints I've heard from people all the years that I've knocked on doors, was that house down there is blighted, it's been blighted for years, and the blight ordinance worked. Now we get to change it out, and yep, we're giving a new owner a discount on some blight that somebody else did, and they repaired the house, and everybody's happy on the street. That's worth every penny of it. And I don't even think $2,500. If somebody does a flip like that on a property that's been an eyesore to a property for property owners for a long time, and just completely devastates the whole street's worth, I mean, honestly, this is just a no-brainer. And I appreciate people coming to this town. And unfortunately, in this case, I think some of the blights go a little crazy, and we do need that committee. I agree, because they're, you know, when you get in a $100,000 blight, that's
It's unreasonable.
But it did what it did. It forced the hand, and the house is improved, and the neighborhood should be happier. And the new owners, I thank you.
Deputy Mayor Suzak.
I'll probably support it, but what I feel like I'm doing is I'm increasing their profit margin. You know, I live next to the one that has just been fixed, and we're all very grateful, because when you own the house next to it and the house on the other side, it's really a miserable process. So, but I think that when we do these things, when we have people come in and flipping, I hope our building department is truly on its toes and doing all its inspections, and that always concerns me. But I have to agree, 50% really is the most we should go, but this one sounds like it needs to go forward.
Councilor Bosco.
with me, it's more, if they would have came in at $2,500, and that's what they asked for, I maybe would have been more inclined, even down to the point where if you got a real piece at $0, but when you make the offer, and, it's like you come to buy a car, and I say, you make an offer, I wanted $10,000 for the car, and you make an offer of $5,000, and now I say, yeah, I'll take it. Well, wait a minute, now I screwed up. I shouldn't have offered that much. Well, now I'm going to give you $2,500. Doesn't work like that, and that's the only reason why I have a problem. If they came up and it's where they offered it, when they did their figures, they figured that I can make money at $5,000 on this. So that's where they need to be, at least in my opinion. So, thank you.
Yeah, so if I may, I don't understand. So if they're if this is a counteroffer and maybe they incurred some cost between then and now that we don't know of, maybe we need that narrative also. But on the other hand, if we don't do it and we let the thing go, it's just, to me, it's for naught. So maybe next time we need to make sure that we give them the flexibility of coming back and saying, you know something, we didn't realize this and this and this was wrong with the house, and now we're hurting, so we'd like to come with a little narrative and a little explanation as to why we cut it in half again. But again, the neighborhood wins regardless.
Any other further discussion? Yeah.
Now, this one sort of bothers me a little bit. Now, this person had already purchased this property? No, they haven't purchased yet, but they did work on it.
That I'm unaware.
Well, that's what I'm hearing. They did work on it. So they must have done something to some type of purchase or right. So, all right. Well, they should have done their math. Thank you.
Hearing no further discussion, roll call, please.
Counselor Denny.
4.
Counselor Falk.
4.
Mayor Ludwig.
Against.
Counselor Muller.
4.
Deputy Mayor Suzak.
4.
Counselor Ungary.
4.
Counselor Arnone.
4.
Counselor Bosco.
Against.
Counselor Crisati.
4.
There's 7 in favor, 2 against, and no abstentions.
Okay. Sorry, I lost my place. Okay, sorry. Item G, under miscellaneous discussion resolution, authorizing the town manager to sign a lease agreement with Collins Powder Hill Farm LLC. Whereas Collins Powder Hill Farm LLC leased approximately 11-plus acres of the town-owned land located on the northwest corner of 77 Town Farm Road, commonly known as the Town of Enfield Transfer Station property, shown in Land Records, Enfield Land Records Book of Maps, Volume 226, pages 3321 through 3324. And whereas the lease was in the growing season of 2017, which commenced on April 1st, 2017, and ended on October 31st, 2017. And whereas the Planning and Zoning Commission at its June 15, 2017 meeting made a positive referral regarding the lease of the property per Connecticut General Statute 824, and whereas the Town Council held a public hearing on June 19, 2017 to receive input from the residents of the town of Enfield regarding the town's leasing the property to Collins Powder Hill Farm LLC, and whereas Collins Powder Hill Farm LLC has requested lease for the growing season of 2018 commencing retroactively April 1, 2018, ending October 31st, 2018, and whereas the P&Z hearing and public hearing in June of 2017 satisfied the respective statutory requirements for the requested lease for 2018, resolved that acting town manager Christopher W. Bronson is empowered to enter an attached agreement in the name and on behalf of the town of Enfield with the Collins Powder Hill Farm LLC, prepared by the town attorney office on June 8, 2018. By Councilor Muller, seconded by Councilor Crisati. Any discussion? Chris, I don't know if you, again,
No, just briefly, we had done it last year. We're renewing it, but there's a cost of $550 this year, and we've already discussed it. And for next year, we're going to look at this property to see about farm preservation, whether we want to sell it, whether we want to lease it and put it in preservation. So again, we now have the ability to look forward to next year.
Right.
We'll start that process now with all the appropriate input from Public Works and other parts of the town government, and have a recommendation next year going forward how you want to handle it then. But this year, it's so late in the season, and we didn't give this individual more heads up about not leasing it, so I think it's fair to renew it for this season.
agree. Any discussion on the resolution? Councilor Denny?
Yeah, I think it's a win-win situation. We're getting $500, and if we can put it into farm preservation and still lease the property, it's perfect.
Yep.
Thanks.
And I give the staff credit for, again, to your point on being fair and timeliness. I agree, this is exactly the right decision, and give even the folks who have, standing in these decisions a chance to prepare as well. So I think it's the right decision.
Good question. Yeah.
Councilor Falk?
I think there was some discussion about, like, going out to bid, maybe more than one farmer would want to use this property. Have those discussions taken place? Is that going anywhere?
That's exactly what I'm referring to, that all those options, and there will be a recommendation going forward whether we want to sell it or we want to go for RFP with farming, put it in farmland preservation, and continue to lease it. All of those options will be looked at, including that.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Counselor Denny.
4.
Counselor Falk.
4.
Mayor Ludwig.
4.
Counselor Muller.
4.
Deputy Mayor Suzak.
4.
Counselor Ungary.
4.
Counselor Arnone.
4.
Counselor Bosco.
4.
Counselor Crisati.
4.
There's 9 in favor, none against, and no abstentions.
Item H, under miscellaneous, resolution creating the senior center manager job description. Resolved that in accordance with Chapter 7, Section 2 of the Town Charter, the Enfield Town Council does hereby adopt the job description for the position of the senior center manager submitted on 6/11/2018 by Jason Neely, Library Director. Motion to approve by Councilor Arnone, seconded by Councilor Ungary. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Counselor Denny.
4.
Counselor Falk.
4.
Mayor Ludwig.
4.
Counselor Muller.
4.
Deputy Mayor Suzak.
4.
Counselor Ungary.
4.
Counselor Arnone.
4.
Counselor Bosco is out. Counselor Crisati.
4.
There's 8 in favor, none against, and no abstentions.
Item I, again, under miscellaneous, a discussion resolution to settle pending property tax appeal. Resolved that the Enfield Town Council does hereby authorize the town attorney or his designee to settle the outstanding tax assessment appeal in the following action. Welcome Enfield, LLC versus Town of Enfield, docket number HHB-BB-17-603893OS. The fair market value of the property known as 1 Bright Meadow Boulevard, 2B, $5,425,000, prepared by the Office of the Town Attorney on June 5th, 2018. Motion by Councilor Muller, seconded by Councilor Crisati. Maybe just a brief, I know, Mark?
Yeah, this was the tax appeal for the Holiday Inn on Bright Meadow Boulevard, and the revaluation process was valued at, I believe, $6.2 million. We did go to court. There was a pretrial conference. There was a discussion with the property owners' lawyers. They actually had an appraisal done right around the time of the reval, which had a lower value. The judge there was some discussion back and forth, and it was discussed that 5.425 would be the fair market value of the property. So that's the recommended settlement. And that was actually from the judge also.
Okay. Thank you.
And Della agrees with that, too.
Seeing no further questions, roll call, please.
Counselor Denny.
4.
Counselor Falk.
4.
Mayor Ludwig.
4.
Counselor Muller.
4.
Deputy Mayor Suzak.
4.
Counselor Ungary.
4.
Counselor Arnone.
4.
Counselor Bosco is
I guess
still
that
out.
means 4.
Counselor Crisati.
4.
There's 8 in favor, none against, and no abstention.
Item J, under miscellaneous, discussion resolution authorizing the acting town manager to enter into agreement with LexisNexis. Resolved that Christopher W. Bronson, acting town manager, is authorized to execute and deliver in the name and on behalf of the town of Enfield an agreement with LexisNexis Claim Solution, Inc., subject to the town attorney review and approval, submitted by Matthew Meyer, dated June 8, 2018. Motion to approve by Councilor Arnone. Seconded by Councilor Falk. Again, Chris, a little brief.
Yes, briefly, Sergeant Meyer had brought this forward, and I think it's a win-win for persons who are trying to access records. It gives them an ability to do it online, especially insurance carriers and others of that sort. Still, I wanted to make sure maintained the option for a resident to come in and do it in person. But it's a database basically involving motor vehicle crashes. We control what information they have. They create a database. People can go on, and they are charged. But the good part about it is the town will be paid $5 by the company for every report generated. They're anticipating, and I had them check data from surrounding towns, probably will have a revenue source of about $2,000 to the town, which is, conservatively predicting, but also what it means, it will reduce some of the work to do this in the records division, which is helpful, and it will also, as I say, give some better ability for persons not to have to come in to get a report. They can do it online.
So Chris, we're not doing this currently, correct?
No.
And the Officer Meyer was the lead?
He brought it forward, and the chief endorsed it. Mark's done a lot of work. We're looking at the contract to work it out with LexisNexis, but the surrounding towns that have it are very happy with it.
So it's great. I mean, $2,000 is $2,000. And oh, by the way, we have forensics at the high school, and it's a big growing field. Maybe we have a lot of forensic scientists out there who want to investigate and spend $5.
And there's no cost to the town up front or continuing.
Yep.
They encourage.
Great idea. Councilor Arnone.
So having 4 kids, I've had my share going to get a couple accident reports over the years. So is it in not real time, but will it be within the 24 normal hours that you can get an accident report, that you can pull it out online? So dads all over Connecticut or Enfield will be not having to go to the police station.
Yes. They'll have to create the database. We give them the information, so I'm sure there'll be some lag time in between. We could find out from the time they get it. I think they have an interest to getting
Sure.
it on there as quickly as possible so they can get the money for doing it. But yeah, it'll enable you to do that from home and not have to go in.
Awesome. Thanks.
Councilor Bosco.
Yeah.
And what is the charge going to be for this, for the person
I asked
getting
Mark for the breakdown. I thought it was, we're getting 5, and I think the charge is a total, I asked them to put it in this, and it isn't here, but I think it was around $9 or $10, and we get 5 of it, and they get the balance.
But if we do it the old way, it's not going to be the more expensive charge. So it'll be cheaper to pick it up at the
Oh,
police
yes,
station?
because they'll just come and pay for the pages.
Yep, okay.
But it's a lot more time for our staff to have to do it instead of letting these people do it and just send us the money. But I wanted to make sure for those who are old school and want to come in, they could still do that.
Well, I guess that was my point. If they're charging 10, 15, 20, I don't care. Because if someone wants to pay it, that's fine. I just didn't want to make it where, if we signed up and you came to the police station to get your report, you'd have to pay the same price as you could get it for online. So I'm good then.
Again, kudos to Officer Meyer for, again, coming up with a revenue-generating solution and actually a little more efficiency. Again, that's exactly what we're trying to get people to start thinking, so it's great. No further discussion, roll call, please.
Counselor Denny.
4.
Counselor Falk.
4.
Mayor Ludwig.
4.
Counselor Muller.
4.
Deputy Mayor Suzak.
4.
Counselor Ungary.
4.
Counselor Arnone.
4.
Counselor Bosco.
4.
Counselor Crisati.
4.
There's 9 in favor, none against, and no abstentions.
Item K under miscellaneous, discussion resolution authorizing the acting town manager to enter in agreements with Take-Two Inc. for electronic waste collection. Resolution authorizing the town manager to enter an agreement with Take-Two Inc. Whereas state regulations require the town to provide convenient, accessible electronic waste collection opportunities for residents, and whereas the town has met its regulatory requirement by providing free drop-off service at the transfer station, and whereas the town intends to continue to provide such service, and whereas the town current vendor under contract through November 2018 recently notified Enfield and all its other customers in Connecticut that it will no longer provide such service as of July 1, 2018, whereas Department of Public Works, parentheses, DPW staff has reviewed proposals from several firms who have been pre-qualified by Connecticut DEP as electronics waste recyclers, and whereas DPW staff recommends the town engage Take-Two Inc. for electronics waste collection services, be it resolved that Christopher W. Bronson, acting town manager, is authorized to enter and sign an electronic waste recycling contract with Take-Two Inc. on behalf of the town of Enfield, subject to review by the town attorney and our risk manager.
So moved.
By Councilor Arnone.
Second.
By Deputy Mayor Suzak. Any discussion? Again, Chris, quick.
Yeah, I hope you don't get tired of hearing from me, but what I'm trying to do is look through these and where I can avoid bringing staff here, because as we know, there's a cost associated with that. So on complicated matters, I'll certainly bring them in, or on job descriptions, but on these matters, I'll try to do my best to explain them, and that way we save, overtime costs and bringing people in unnecessarily. This is quite simple. We lost the last vendor. They've been able to find a new vendor to take over the pickup of these. Donna had asked whether we know where they're going, the end, and Mr. Bilma said, no, it's going to a licensed facility. That's where they send it, but we know not where under this contract. But the important thing to note that the service will be seamless, and this company will take over June 30th, and there should be no interruption of the pickup for our residents.
This is recommended by staff.
Yes.
Great. Okay.
They did a good job in scrambling to fill this void.
Great. Very good job. Yep. No further discussion. Roll call, please.
Counselor Denny.
4.
Counselor Falk.
4.
Mayor Ludwig.
4.
Counselor Muller.
4.
Deputy Mayor Suzak.
4.
Counselor Ungary.
4.
Counselor Arnone.
4.
Counselor Bosco.
4.
Counselor Crisati.
4.
There's 9 in favor, none against, and no abstentions.
Again, under miscellaneous, item L, discussion resolution authorizing the acting town manager to enter into agreement with the Operation Fuel, Inc. for fiscal year 18-19. Whereas Operation Fuel, Inc. provides energy assistance services to town residents in need. Whereas the Department of Social Services partners with Operation Fuel, Inc. by processing fuel assistant applications. And whereas Operation Fuel, Inc. will reimburse the Department of Social Services at the rate of $25 per application for administrative services. Resolved that the acting town manager or his designee is authorized to sign the contract with Operation Fuel, Inc., subject to review and approval by the town attorney, in the name and on behalf of the town of Enfield, and to affix the corporate seal, submitted on June 18, 2018 by Don Homer Bouthier, Director of Social Services.
So moved.
By Councilor Falk.
Second.
By Councilor Arnone.
And a fresh face. If you have any questions on the following three, Damien is here.
Hello.
How you doing, sir?
Good evening.
Good evening.
Ladies and gentlemen.
So give us, if you wouldn't mind, a little background on it. It sounds like a very interesting program.
Sure. Every year, Operation Fuel, Inc. Assists town residents with their energy needs, especially during the winter time. They pay us a fee for helping them process the applications. There's no cost to town residents to apply for Operation Fuel. They reimburse us through this fee to cut down on their administrative costs. We generate about $1,000 per year by assisting Operation Fuel Inc. to process these applications, and that's about it.
And Mr. Mayor, I was remiss if he could please identify his full name. We know who he is, but for folks at home, his name and title.
I'm sorry. Damian Humphrey, Deputy Director of Social Services for the town of Enfield.
Thank you. So we get reimbursed for every application?
Yes, we do.
So I guess I'm going to ask a dumb question. Why aren't we pushing this so we get more applications?
Well, Operation Fuel Inc. is
Specific on
for...
who can apply? Yeah.
Correct.
All right.
It's for low-income families, and, you know, it's also limited on the amount of funds that Operation Fuel has to be able to distribute. So that's one of the reasons why.
Again, another great program I'm sure most people don't even hear about. Any, Deputy Mayor Suzak?
Do they just do home heating oil, or do you do natural gas and propane as well?
They do all types of fuel.
Great. Thank you.
Electric as well?
Yes, they do.
So where do we promote this, Damian?
Currently, we share this through the Department of Social Services, through our social workers when folks come into town. But we're also looking to expand our marketing and communications for the Department of Social Services so that we can inform all of the residents of the services that we provide, as well as many of the organizations that partner with us provide. So that's something that we'll be looking to enhance for this year.
So as a side comment on the blight board, you know, if you actually had a blight board, this is something you could actually do a friendly referral, because you would kind of know if the property's in dire need, there's probably a need for some other further assistance. Actually, kind of a, you know, another side event to your blight board, you know, to get people to know that there is help for fuel if they need it.
Yep.
Again, a great program, and the more we can do to promote it, I think is great. Thank you, sir, for hanging in there. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Denny.
Yeah, just a comment, something that we picked up at the Committee on the Aging, now that we're talking about that. If you see a house that's in blight, not necessarily yourself and knocking on the door, but in some instances, there's a person that's shut in, don't know, can't cut the grass. Their shades might be pulled down and nobody knows that they're in dire straits or living by themselves and don't have a family or so forth. So this was brought up at Aging, and the best thing you can do is, I had a neighbor like that, and you just call social services and let them knock on their door and see if they're all right. Or they call the police and see if they're well. That's all.
Yep. Councilor Bosco.
And that's exactly why I've been trying to get the blight board for many years, because there's people out there that need some help but may not ask for it.
It would be a great referral. I mean, it's natural. I mean, I think it's obvious. We'll bring it up in general governance, but I think the more we talk about it, the more, I don't want to put you on the spot, but the more we need to work through the policy of it.
It's a good idea, and I will just tell you that our EMS, through Gary Umoka, we do a lot of referrals. When they go in on a call and they identify some of these issues we're talking about, they make a lot of referrals to social services to, you know, try to help in other areas than the medical call itself. So we do try to do that collaborative effort in town.
Roll call, please.
Councilor Denny.
4.
Councilor Falk.
4.
Mayor Ludwig.
4.
Councilor Muller.
4.
Deputy Mayor Suzak.
4.
Councilor Ungary.
4.
Councilor Arnone.
4.
Councilor Bosco.
4.
Councilor Crissati.
4.
There's 9 in favor, none against, and no abstentions.
Okay, we are on we're getting there. Item M under miscellaneous discussion resolution revising the adult daycare center manager job description. Resolved in accordance with Chapter 7, Section 2 of the Town Charter. Therefore, Town Council does hereby revise the job description for the position of adult daycare center manager, submitted on 6/5/18 by Don Homer Bouthier, Director of Social Services. Moved by Councilor Falk, seconded by Councilor Denny. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Councilor Denny.
4.
Councilor Falk.
4.
Mayor Ludwig.
4.
Councilor Muller.
4.
Deputy Mayor Suzak.
4.
Councilor Ungary.
4.
Councilor Arnone.
4.
Councilor Bosco.
4.
Councilor Crissati.
4.
There's 9 in favor, none against, no abstentions.
Item N, discussion under, again, miscellaneous. Item N, discussion resolution revising the Food Nutrition Program Manager job description. Resolved in accordance with Chapter 7, Section 2 of the Town Charter, the Enfield Town Council does hereby revise the job description for the position of Food and Nutrition Program Manager submitted on June 18th, 2018 by Don Homer Bouthier, Director of Social Services. By Counselor Muller. Second by Counselor Falk. Any discussion on item N? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Counselor Denny.
4.
Counselor Falk.
4.
Mayor Ludwig.
4.
Counselor Muller.
4.
Deputy Mayor Suzak. 4. Counselor Ungary. 4. Counselor Arnone.
4.
Counselor Bosco. 4. Counselor Crisati.
4.
There's 9 in favor, none against, and no abstentions.
Item O, discussion resolution appointing representative of the town of Enfield to serve in the board of directors for the Opera House Players. Whereas the Opera House Players, Inc. have a one-year lease with an option to purchase the Village Center property located at 100 High Street, and whereas the Opera House Players, Inc. are in the process of renovating the Village Center building, and whereas the Enfield Culture and Arts Commission would like to provide the Opera House Players with $25,000 grant for a portion of the renovation costs and expenses, whereas the Enfield Town Charter, Chapter 6, Section 2 provides that no such contribution of more than $5,000 shall be made to any organization or corporation unless the town is represented on its board by one or more members nominated thereto by the council. Be it resolved that in accordance with the requirements of the town charter, the Enfield Town Council does by here nominate blank to serve in a board of directors of the Opera House Players, Inc., prepared on June 7, 2018, by the Office of the Town Attorney.
So moved.
By Counselor Arnone, seconded by Counselor Crisati. Any commentary, Chris, on this one? No?
Well, Marcus here, there was a legal opinion based on it, but you need to name a representative, which is a person. So if you have a person, you'd have to include it.
Sure. I'd like to nominate Josh Homry.
Nominate, so we'll make, Suzanne, we must make sure. So we need a nomination, the resolution's been read. A nomination will be an amendment to the resolution, correct?
Well, I don't know, there's a blank.
I just filled it in.
Just want to make sure, that's all, because I know in theory we're changing the language, or... All right, okay, just want to make sure, yeah. So it's not
I think
amended.
Tom just filled it in.
All right. So motion by Counselor Arnone.
Second.
Second by Counselor Denny. So now we have discussion on the resolution and the nomination of Josh Chambray to the directors of the Opera House Players.
I have a question.
Counselor Falk.
I've served on the council for a number of years, and typically, when we give money to an organization, we normally have a council person sitting as the representative on these boards that we give money to. So it just surprised me to see a non-council person being on there versus a council person.
Yeah, we reviewed the charter. We reviewed the charter, and it doesn't say counselor has to be on it. It just says a person. Basically, it's appointed by the council. There didn't seem to be that specific language saying that a counselor has to be on the board of directors. I mean, you're free to nominate a council member, obviously, but.
Yeah. The second question is, can you have two?
I believe the charter says I think it says one or more. I'm going from memory on that, but I believe it allows for multiple. Yeah.
I only say that because I think it's a good idea, because we're the physical responsibility for the town, and it's town money, that maybe somebody from the council should be serving on there as well. So I don't want to hold this up. I want it to move forward because I want that to be a successful program. But somewhere moving forward, can we have that discussion and perhaps appoint another person?
You can make the amendment tonight.
No, I don't want to do it tonight.
Counselor Arnone.
And I can appreciate that, because this was a long negotiation with the Opera House Players. Lori and I both on the, and Lori just came aboard now recently too, so she's been, trying to catch up on this last 2 years worth of trying to get the board through here. And this was, we both had volunteered also to do this. 7 people had volunteered, and we had actually our secretary is Josh's wife, and she says, well, he already volunteers for the Opera House Players for a number of years. He knows them all very well. They were very comfortable to have him on their board. They recommended that it would be comfortable for them, and that's how this progressed, so everybody knows how it actually progressed through. And this expenditure will probably be the only one at the over $5,000 level. We will as Culture and Arts partner with them in the future, but for this particular amount of money, they probably will never see this again.
So I just appreciate that. I don't feel comfortable unless tonight we appoint a member of the council along with Mr. Ombre. So if it's either you or Lori, I want that added as an amendment. And again, I'm sorry, we're the governing body of the town, and we're the ones who decide on what goes on what boards and who don't go on boards, whether you like it or not, and especially when there's money at risk. I have no problem appointing the individual, but I also want a council member appointed as part of this resolution, or I won't support it. Councilor Arnone.
Well, that's the problem, because, we can't just appoint somebody without the board of directors of the Opera House approving that, because it's their board. And honestly, if the Culture and Arts was set up similar to the Athletic Hall of Fame, there would be a 501c, and we wouldn't have to go through this, because this is basically their money. The town allowed them to accumulate this over the last, I don't know, it's probably been way before me. And this is kind of just what they've been waiting to spend this amount of money on. And again, I wouldn't feel comfortable voting on that unless we actually talk, and there's no one here from the Opera House or there is. There is. I wouldn't feel comfortable without actually
You're welcome
running
to
it by
come
them.
up, but I think we've gotten.
I don't know if he can make that.
We've gotten in trouble in other organizations. Okay, again, I just want to make sure the money's spent. Again, we've just went through this recently. And all I'm saying is, I don't see why we can't have a council member. It doesn't have to be Republican or Democrat. It could be whoever Council of Arts says they should be. Again, I agree, it's the money. And so my worry is now that we make it a formal resolution, that I'm going to be on the hook for if anything doesn't go the way it's supposed to go legally. And I guess that's a question for Mark. So if the money's spent incorrectly or mismanaged or whatever may happen.
Yeah, that's the whole point of having the council representative on the board of directors, to monitor that and make sure the funds are used for what they're designated for.
And that's why I'm saying we need a town councilor who actually has a fiduciary responsibility to make that decision. Councilor Ungar.
Through the mayor to the attorney. So once the funds are expended, then there's no need to have that person on their board?
That's a good question.
That's not come up before. Normally, when you make it, they stay there and they're there for the duration. I guess, truthfully, somebody could just resign the next day and there isn't much you could do about it. But to be eligible for the receipt of the funds, we have to have a representative there. I would just make known, too, Mr. Mayor, whomever you appoint, councilor or layperson, they have a fiduciary obligation to the town.
That's right.
Not to any other commission, not to the opera players. But they have to understand, if it's Mr. Hamry going forward, his obligation is to the town council who appointed him and to no other entity, just so we're clear. And it's good they're comfortable with them, I'm glad, because you want to have a working relationship. But his obligation, and Mark, you can...
Yeah, his obligation would be to basically, if there was a question, or report back to, he's still a member of the board of directors of the Opera House Players, but it's like a corporation. He's your appointed representative to the board of directors.
So he's answerable to you.
Councilor Falcon, Councilor Arnone.
Oh, Lori, before me.
I gather this is a one-shot deal, so after 1 year, the money is spent, we don't need a representative anymore. So is this going to be, I'll appoint you for 1 year?
No, I don't think we should get into that, only because that's hypothetical and, it's something that we can't predict. I think with anybody you appoint, anyone can resign at any time. The charter envisions they're there, and they probably have an ongoing interest, like Mr. Hamry, and want to be involved beyond the expenditure of these particular monies. But that's something you really can't address, Mr. Falk. You can't make them swear they're going to serve.
After 1 year, then he's no longer our fiduciary representative because there's no money involved.
Well, I'm not going to opine on that off the cuff. As long as he's there, he has a fiduciary obligation to report to the council, period. Whether he's there a week, a day, or for the rest of his life.
So Councilor Arnone deferred to Councilor Ungar. So.
Thank you. I was just wondering if the representative, the guest here from the Opera House Players, does he have the authority to make that decision?
No, no he doesn't. No? He doesn't. All right.
So now I will add that the Cultural and Arts Commission will be following this very closely, and actually we have a very good relationship with the Opera House players. We want to continue this relationship for many, many years because they're also giving to us. They're allowing us access in many ways to use their facility, whether it be a future art show in the lobby or stand-up poetry jam. We've been working back and forth with it, and this is going to be a huge generator of community event in that area, and we want to be a part of it in the cultural arts. And everyone in the commission is extremely excited to be a part of it. And believe me, we're going to follow that right through, because if we could go up there and hammer nails with them, that's where we're going to be.
And again, I'm all for the money going to the Opera House. I'm excited as well, but I'm not willing to give up my fiduciary responsibility. Councilor Bosco.
Well, I guess there's another way of looking at this. It's one-time fund. They don't do what we want, they don't get nothing next year either. So if they tend to spend the money not the way they're supposed to, another dollar will never go there because it has to be done through budget, correct? To give them the money, we'd have to vote on it.
What do we put in?
During budget time, so.
Well, just like any of the other committees, we give an X amount of dollars to them.
So,
Yeah,
I mean, if they don't show us, proof is in the pudding that they spent this money correctly before budget season of next year, we really have 11 members on that board, because they don't do what they're supposed to do, they're not going to get another penny from the town.
Well, I think I can say this too. So come November, their first play, everyone I hope is going to be there, and we'll show you.
Right.
Exactly. And you're going to be surprised at what we've seen, the plans and what they've proposed to do inside there.
So like I said,
it's going to be phenomenal.
we could be a partner for a long time, or we can be a one-time partner and it just never happens again. And if down the road they want, we want to do more for them, then I guess we could always tell them, look, this is going to be, your next thing of funds are going to be contingent on this. You want more money? We want more representation. If not, 6 people have to vote and say, yes, you're getting more money.
Yep.
So I guess we have one fail-safe, that it doesn't go the wrong way. It's next year.
So with that being said, Joe, and that's huge to the culture and arts, because the culture and arts, this new group that we have, they're really trying hard to prove to us, the counselors, that they deserve that money every year. So this is going to be another huge test for that group, and they'll be here with slideshows, and they're going to start showing you exactly what we're doing for culture and arts in this town. So I'm excited for them there too. So we're kind of going in a new direction for many years. Bill Lee was on with me on this committee, and he's had some great ideas that are finally coming to fruition in this committee too. So I hope he's listening, because he's proud of where they have gone also. So I think they'll surprise you.
Like I said, we got a second stopgap. So
yeah,
I mean, at this point here, I'm okay doing it. But next year,
we'll assess it.
We'll have a little bit more time, and we can see what we got to do.
We'll put them on the agenda right after November when they.
You all set?
Yep.
Deputy Mayor Suzak.
For me, this opened up the bigger issue. How many of these appointments do we make, and where are they?
Yeah, we don't.
I don't know.
We don't.
As a town council member, I know a couple of them, but I don't know all of them. Yeah, and sometimes they're appointed when they're town councilors, and then they're not town councilors, but they still should remember they have that fiduciary responsibility even when they leave this dais. And from my understanding, they have to have POs from the town anyway, correct?
POs, purchase order for
any of the work that'll be done at the
for these
building?
funds?
Yes.
The
culture and arts will be reviewing all that. The town only holds the money, so that can be discussed.
Right, okay. I'm
Yes,
fine.
but we intend to follow
but
through with each
a list
project.
would be nice if we knew exactly what we were doing. I think sometimes we have all good intentions, and the train starts down the track, and before we know it, it's you got a new conductor.
Roll call, please.
Counselor Denny.
4.
Counselor Foe.
4.
Mayor Ludwig.
Against.
Counselor Muller.
4.
Deputy Mayor Suzak.
4.
Counselor Ungary.
4.
Counselor Arnone.
4.
Counselor Bosco.
4.
Counselor Crisati.
4.
We have 2 in favor, 1 against, and no abstentions.
Item P on miscellaneous resolution, discussion resolution adopting amendments to resolution number 4472 regarding the Joint Facilities Committee, whereas the Town Council resolution number 4472 amended resolution number 3602 regarding the membership and duties of the Joint Facilities Committee, and whereas the Town Council wishes to amend the resolution 4472 by adding a provision to the Joint Facilities Committee's duty and responsibilities, and now therefore be it resolved, the Enfield Town Council adopts the amendment to resolution 4472 by adding to the duties and responsibilities of the Joint Facilities Committee the authority to appoint a subcommittee for the purpose of reviewing or recommending clean energy options for municipal facilities, submitted on June 13, 2018 by the Town Attorney's Office. Moved by Councilor Muller, seconded by Councilor Arnone. Any discussion? Is simply just moving to clean energy under the joint facilities. Okay. Roll call, please.
Counselor Denny.
4.
Counselor Falk.
4.
Mayor Ludwig.
4.
Counselor Muller.
4.
Deputy Mayor Suzak.
4.
Counselor Ungary.
4.
Counselor Arnone.
4.
Counselor Bosco.
4.
Counselor Crisati.
4.
There's 9 in favor, none against, and no abstentions.
Item Q in miscellaneous, discussion resolution dissolving the Clean Energy Committee. Whereas the Enfield Town Council established the Clean Energy Committee, and whereas the Enfield Town Council established the Joint Facility Committee, and whereas the Joint Facility Committee and the Clean Energy Committee have similar and overlapping goals, whereas the Town Council desires to have efficient and effective committee structure, resolve the Enfield Town Council does hereby dissolve the Enfield Clean Energy Committee effective the date of this resolution with the sincerest appreciation, and thanks to the members of the committee for their diligent work. Approved by the Town Manager's Office.
So moved.
Moved by Councilor Arnone, seconded by Deputy Mayor Suzak. Any discussion? Deputy Mayor Suzak.
I think that people should know that there's an expectation that the Clean Energy Commission, as it sits before this dissolution, will be the new subcommittee for the facilities. I mean, Tom and I were on it for, 4 years, and Joe's come on. We went through the strategic energy plan for the town of Enfield. It needs to be implemented. The only way it can be implemented is if you're part of facilities. It's not going to happen as a satellite committee. They were instrumental in getting the word out on the performance contract, getting, in conjunction with the Bright Ideas grant, we're able to get information to the citizens, and I think was instrumental in, on strike number 3, we had a home run on that. And now this summer, we'll be starting to get in the information from the performance contract. I think it's a good place for them to be. They'll be in a place where they get a quorum, and they have some say, and they have some camaraderie between people who are of the same mind. Thank you.
Thank you, Donna.
Roll call, please.
Counselor Denny.
4.
Counselor Falk.
4.
Mayor Ludwig.
4.
Counselor Muller.
4.
Deputy Mayor Suzak.
4.
Counselor Ungary.
4.
Counselor Arnone.
4.
Counselor Bosco.
4.
Counselor Crisati.
4.
There's 9 in favor, none against, and no abstentions.
Item 16, public communications. Would anyone like to speak for the council at this time? Anyone like to speak for the council at this time?
Made my day.
Hearing none, I'll declare public communications closed. Item 17, councilor communications. Councilor Bosco.
As we, through the mayor to the town manager, as we were sitting here talking about the liens for the clean and lean and blighted property, looking forward, I don't think we should remove any lien until the property is totally in compliance. So this person buys it, says they're going to clean it. I'm not doubting they're not going to clean it, but what if I decide now I'm not? So we just got rid of, all the liens on the property, and now we got to start again from the beginning. So I don't think that any lien should be removed until the property comes into compliance. And then I think we need to, in the policy, figure out what we're willing to cut. And personally, I really don't care if it's the owner of the property. You know, someone may have and that's, again, going back to the blight board, someone may have a long-lost uncle that finally died and they can afford to get their house painted, you know. So we should be able to help them and not even be as strict with the fines, because really, the ultimately is to get them clean. So the most important thing is getting them clean, but not removing anything till the property is cleaned. And then I want to thank Chris. I like hearing from you, because everyone that came here was getting paid. And, you know, unless we have something that is urgent, it has to go, you know, this vote, it can always be pushed off to another one to get the answers that we need. And this is the kind of thinking we need to do to pull the town forward so we don't have a lot of that overtime. And I think it's a great thing, and I may not get the answer I want, but we can always vote on it next week if something is not pressing. So thank you. That's, you know, it's going to save us some money at the end of the year. We'll notice it.
Thank you, and I'll just say, I don't want to belabor it on the liens. That is a consideration we have. Unfortunately, on this one, I asked Mark about that. The bank won't give the loan until the liens are released, and he won't buy it. So, I think going forward, I'd like more time on these, because we had them at least give us a letter of intent that he's going to do it, but that's why I wanted to make sure we knew we had a track record. But going forward, I'd like an actual agreement, so that if we do have to release it before,
correct,
we have an agreement signed by the person buying it that he will do it, or the liens will go back on.
Right,
I just didn't have time
right
this time.
Okay, as long as we're looking.
Yeah, no, we're aware of that.
Thank you.
Mayor Suzak.
Aren't those liens released actually at the closing? They're not released prior to the closing, are they? Right, so everybody sits at the table and everything
We'll
gets...
get the money, but I think what the councilman's saying, we've got the money from him, but what if they then don't do the work and the liens are gone? So I'm trying to,
You know, unfortunately...
You're right, there's some level of trust.
We'll just build that blight back up again.
All right, and there shouldn't be negotiation. There should be a set price, and then if we negotiate for a special situation, and that's my beef with that. Yeah. Motion to adjourn by Councilor Fox, second by Councilor Unger. All those in favor? Opposed? We're adjourned.